summary of The Hero's Tale. Title: The Hero's Tale. Author: Jacob M. Wiersbe. Plot summary. In a magical and fantastical world, a 30-year-old woman, part of the renowned Dragon's Talon Guild, is humanity's last hope against the encroaching demon race. As the sole hero in this struggle, she embarks on a perilous journey, now in its 5th year, when an unexpected twist occurs. Chapter 1 Summary. The story begins in a dark, rain-impending alleyway where the narrator encounters a divine-sounding woman in white, Freya, who is not from his world. Freya, the goddess of light and life, reveals a dire situation in her realm, a war against the Demon Queen led by a tiger beast woman hero. Freya recruits the narrator to aid the hero, suspecting a betrayal from within her ranks. Disillusioned with his mundane life, the narrator accepts the offer without hesitation. He is granted enhanced abilities, weapon choices, and random magic powers. Embracing his new role, he selects armor and weaponry, transforming into a formidable knight with ice and lightning elemental magic. Upon arrival in the fantasy world, the narrator immediately engages in battle, demonstrating his newfound powers by defeating a giant threatening the hero's party. As he meets the hero, a tall, scarred yet beautiful tiger beast woman, the story sets the stage for an epic adventure where the narrator must protect and assist the hero in her quest. Themes: the allure of adventure over mundane reality, the role of destiny and choice in shaping one's path, the power of transformation and self-discovery. Setting: a world filled with magic, fantasy races, and an ongoing war between good and evil. Characters: the unnamed narrator, a man seeking purpose, chosen to protect the hero. Freya, the goddess of light and life, guiding the narrator. The hero, a tiger beast woman warrior from the Dragon's Talon Guild. The story combines elements of fantasy, action, and personal transformation, promising an engaging tale of bravery and mystical encounters. The Hero's Tale. By Jacob M. Wiersbe. One woman fights evil in a world of magic and fantasy, where every day is not for us regular people. With the help of her party, she travels her world doing just that. Being a woman in this world is hard enough. But now, at 30, she's the world's only hope to save it from the raging demon race. It might be good that she's part of the famous Dragon's Talon Guild. In year 5 of her journey, something horrible was about to happen. This is where our story starts, not from the hero's tale, but from the one being summoned to help. A human. The scene is in a dark alleyway. The air was hot, but the night was still young. I could feel the sky was about to rain. You could smell it, and all of the animals around were gone. My hair on the back of my neck stood as I passed another alley. I looked and saw a woman in white watching me. I wanted to run, but she got closer every time I blinked. "Hello, sir," she said to me, and my heart stopped. Her voice was divine in how it felt in my ears. "Hello, ma'am. Do you need help with something?" I asked her, and she smiled at me. My heart started to feel warm. Then she told me, "You might be what I need for something. Are you interested, sir?" I thought momentarily, recalling my days of cooking and failing as a writer. She might have something fun for me to do, even if it's only for a moment. "Sure, what do you need my help with, miss?" I said, and she hit me with a bright white light. The next thing I knew, I was in a bright white room that seemed to be made of clouds. In the middle of the room were a table and a woman. Now, she was huge and wearing an almost see-through dress. "I am Freya, not Freya from your world. I'm the goddess of light and life. On the world I watch over and manage, I've run into a problem," she said to me, motioning for me to come closer. On the table was an image of a group of people. They were people from a fantasy world, one like from the show I've seen. One was a black fur and golden-striped tiger-like woman. She looked powerful just on her muscle look alone. This is the hero of the Dragon's Talon Guild. She's a tiger beast woman, and she's on a long mission to stop the evil Demon Queen from taking over. The goddess said to me, explaining how bad the war was going. I was still confused about why she needed me. "I need you to help the hero settle this war. I need you to protect the hero as she finishes the mission. I suspect she will be betrayed in the end by a friend. This is why I need you. Can you keep a close eye on her companions?" Freya asked me, and I looked back at my current life. "Am I going into this unarmed or what?" I asked her, and she gave me a list of things I could take into this world. 1. I get boosted states up to 1,000 points like in a video game. 2. I get to choose my class of weapons, primary and secondary. 3. I'm given a type of magic to use randomly. I could choose my armor setup and new name if I wanted to change my name. Freya told me all this, and I didn't take a second look back at my world. A life of adventure over a life of regret from a dead-end job. Easy choice, right? Goddess Freya, I will help you with this, I said to her, and she looked excited. Then, she stated that I needed to be an effective fighter. I looked at all of the states and adjusted what I could. Then, I chose my first weapon, a pair of gauntlets and a massive executioner sword. I entered a room and decided on my first suit of armor, a light set with a helmet that reminded me of a motocross helmet. The armor was silver until I put it all on and strapped my boots on my feet. I looked like a badass knight from a video game or a show. My armor turned red, then black to gold. It began with a dark red suit with black leather. A golden emblem appeared on my shoulders like a tree. A tree I recognized. A willow, wow, and it's golden like the trim on the suit, I said as the goddess cast away the room when I was done. She looked at me and then put my helmet on my head. You've been given the element magic of ice and lightning. By random, you've become more of a threat to evil than I meant. Goddess Freya looked concerned for a moment. Freya, I'll be fine. When I learn to use my magic, I'll be ready to take on the world. It's not like you're throwing me with many lightweight fighters, I said to her, and she seemed to settle down. Yes, you're right, Jacob. Well, all we need to do is introduce you to the hero. Freya said, and I agreed. We returned to the table and watched for a moment. The hero party was fighting a giant. The monster was winning, which was terrible. I saw its defensive states were the same as my offensive states. I looked at Freya. Send me there now. I can help defeat that giant, I said, and she hesitated, then sent me with a flash of lightning. I crossed the sky at full speed. The bolt of light could be seen from 10 miles away. I was getting too close, so I drew my sword and swung. With the lightning and force of my hit, I sent the monster flying into the mountainside. All 5 members of the hero party stopped attacking. They saw me land on the ground hard. I put the sword on my back to stretch my arms. Ah, that goddess can throw, can't she? Ha ha ha, I said, laughing a bit till the giant stood back up. Round 2, big guy, I asked the monster, and it hesitated for a moment. Then, it charged at me, and I felt an energy course through my body. I raised my arms and saw my right hand glowing while my left was cold. I smiled and blocked the monster's hit. I could feel his weight. But the power given to me made me feel like a regular person. I picked the giant up and slammed him back to the ground. Then I touched him with my right hand. He was shocked by the lightning magic pouring out of my hand. I drew around the power and looked at the hero's party. I was going to say something, but Freya told me through my ears. Take care of them, Jacob. We'll talk later when you settle into this world. I smiled, and I approached the hero. She was taller than I expected, but her face was beautiful. Her left eye had a scare, and she was ripped from all the fighting. She didn't have much armor and wore a tan fur coat. The weapon on her side was a short sword. Her eyes glowed yellow, and her fur was more black with golden strips. She was unquestionably someone you should keep from messing with. She looked at me with skepticism about why I was there. I remember I was still wearing my helmet. I took it off, revealing my face to her. She was shocked by my face. Wait, you're human? She asked me, and I nodded at her. Yes, I'm Jacob Willow. I was summoned here by Freya to help you all on your quest, I said, trying to sound heroic while watching everyone behind Tigra. I saw that 2 of her mages were dark elves. They were also waiting to do something, or looked taken aback by my arrival. Tigra grabbed my shoulder and had a small chat with me. Why are you here? Why did the goddess of light bring a human here? She asked me, and I shrugged. I don't know why she picked me, but I'm glad I came here. Before, I was a cook and a failed writer. Now I'm a man on a quest to pro. I stopped when Tigra hit my shoulder. You're not even a fighter, but you just took down a giant with no problem. You're right. I wasn't a fighter when asked to take on this task. I used to fight when I was younger, but in my 20s, I didn't have to fight every day. But why am I here? I'm here to help you. I am also here to find a better life in this world, I said back to her, and she gave me a look that almost made me laugh out loud. Why are you here to help me? What did the goddess tell you? Why is she so invested in my party? Tigra asked me, and I looked over to her party. I pictured a dome of ice around us. I waved my arms over us, encasing us in an ice bubble. Then I told her what Freya told me. Someone in your party is going to betray you. I don't know who exactly, but I got a few guesses based on what I saw there. I told her, and she was curious about who I thought would hurt her. You're sure that telling me this is all right? If Goddess Freya heard you, she might scold you, or worse, Tigra said to me. I smiled a bit, then told her not to worry about me. I assumed Freya was fine, since I could tell Tigra without her stopping me. We ended that part of the conversation, and I dispelled the ice. The last thing Tigra said before she accepted me into the fold was, "Keep your eye on who you suspect, but be kind to my friends at the party." I agreed to her request. Then we started walking to the group. As we got closer, I placed my helmet in my armpit. The first one to greet me was an orc. He stood about 7 feet tall. He held out his hand when Tigra nodded her head. I shook his hand and greeted everyone while shaking hands. My name is Jacob Willow, and I'm 29 years old. And yes, I am human, I said, letting go, smiling and bowing to everyone. I know that I'm a bit strange regarding companions, but I hope to gain your trust in the coming days of us traveling together, I added. And everyone seemed more at ease with me. This is when everyone introduced themselves to me. The orc man was first. His name was Ola, and he was the party's warrior-type fighter. Then you got the 2 mages, both siblings of dark elves named Laurie and Roy. A sister and brother were the 2 I was most concerned about. They greeted me but kept reserved about how they talked to me. Then we got the 4th member, and the final one. This one was a red-skinned woman called Belle. From what I could feel, she might be a demon. So, I would closely watch her, just like the siblings. I watched them take the drops from the giant as we began to move west. I didn't care where we were going as long as I did my duty. So, for an hour of being silent, probably because of me, we started talking about our favorite foods. I told them about some of my favorites from my world. Most of it was fried foods like cheese and chicken. Everyone thought my food sounded excellent, but weird. Then, everyone asked me what I had done before coming. Tigra spoke for everyone. I know you kind of told me, but everyone here is curious about what you did for work. I looked at the ground, trying not to stumble on a rock. I looked up at the road, and then I said, I did 2 things for work. I was a cook at a restaurant. We served great food to the public for money. The second thing I did was write stories for a company for some money. I didn't earn much, and everyone said I was not good. On my way home from the cooking work, I planned on returning to boxing. I paused for a moment for everyone to stop walking as we reached the front gate of a town. What is boxing? I've never heard of it before, Roy said behind me. I turned to him and said, It's a form of fighting. There are a bunch of rules, but it's a money sport. Win or lose, you get something from the fights. Roy looked at me and thought fighting for money was a good idea, but the fact everyone got something was a bit hard to believe. Okay, everyone, please give me your papers and stats, said a voice in front. I looked in my leather pocket and saw that Freya had made me a card with my information. The stats part was going to be a hard one. I whispered to Ole, who should give me a spell that could open a video game-like screen in front of my person. From here, everyone could see my skills, magic, and stats. I was on par with the hero herself. We all went to an inn when we got through the line and into the town. I got my room near Tigra's and Roy's. From there, I went down the stairs and sat at a table. I looked around and saw everyone was looking right at me. What, never seen a human relaxing in a chair before? Ole said, sitting right across from me. After that, everyone seemed to dismiss me. Ole put a couple of mugs of what looked like beer on the table. You drink? He asked me, and I replied, Only when I'm relaxing. Ole laughed a bit and handed me a mug. I took it and slammed the whole drink down like it was water. The taste was something different, not the hops and bitter beer from my world. No, this was like mead, the taste of honey and berries. Ole watched, as did everyone else, shocked I could drink that much of the mead so quickly. You all right there, Jacob? That was a lot of mead in one swig, he asked me, and I drunkenly smiled at him. Sir Ole, this was what I needed. I put the mug down, and the inn maiden poured another mug full. Then I continued. For me, it's been a day and a half this morning. I work a full shift at the inn or restaurant. Then, I got asked to join this quest by being taller than a giant. Then I travelled for what seemed like forever to a town full of people I'd only seen in storybooks. So a mug of this hit the spot. Thank you, Ole. I said he was concerned about me venting to him, as I did. I looked at the new mug of mead and then drank it slowly. I'm happy for right now, though. I'm not working a pointless job. I'm not stuck in a cycle of working on sleeping. I'm doing something important with a decent group of people. I said just as Roy and his younger sister Laurie showed up. They looked hungry from the journey. Roy sat next to me as Laurie went to order food. As we all sat there for a moment, Roy asked me, "So how did you learn to use magic?" I looked at him and said, "I just let my power flow. The image I had in my head translated to my hands." I then showed him a bit of my lightning magic with a ball of light. I stopped when the barkeep gave me a funny look. "You know how to do wordless magic. That's a rare talent. Not many people can do that," he said. And I smiled a bit and said, "Thanks. I just thought this world's magic would be hard to use. But I was proven wrong with all that I did to the giant." We all talked about simple things from what I knew about this world. I didn't know much about the world. Ole and Roy then told me all they knew, from the world's history to the history of the kingdoms living in it. Even though I had suspicions about the elves, I had a decent time drinking and eating food with Ole, Roy, and Laurie as the night began. I felt my eyes getting heavy. I'm going to go to bed. I've been up too long. I'll see you all in the morning," I said as I was getting up from my seat. Everyone wished me a good night. I nodded and went to bed that night in a new world. Day 2. Today was my first day tagging along with Tigra. I got up right as the sun began to rise. I put on my armor and walked down the stairs to see that Ole was also up. The morning seemed peaceful. No one yelled or alarms went off. As Tigra entered the inn's waiting room/bar, I put on my gauntlets. She was surprised to see me awake. "Did you sleep well, Mr. Willow?" she asked me as I nodded and said, "Yes, I did. Also, you can call me Jacob." She smiled at me and told me we would be camping outside tonight. She also handed me the money earned for slaying the giant yesterday. I was going to deny the payment, but Ole stopped me, saying, "You took that beast down alone. We'd be dead if you did not step in when you did." I looked at him and nodded, taking the money from Tigra. Before everyone got up, I asked Ole or Tigra if they could help me buy some rations for the journey. Ole agreed to come with me to see what I would buy. I didn't have a bag or tools for cooking, so that is what I bought first. Then I got up to a food vendor and saw all she had to offer. Much of the food was very similar to what I was used to cooking, from potato-looking things to fruits and other meats. The hardest part was picking out the seasonings. Some of it looked very different. The salt was off-white, and the pepper was grey, not black. I picked up some blue seasoning, and some that smelled like onion powder, and tasted like it, but were green. I just shrugged, and bought all I could, with still a little coin left in my bag. Ole was surprised I bought so much cooking stuff. He then remembered that I was a cook in my old life. "I hope you can make us something good with all that," he said, making fun of me for wasting my money. I laughed with him momentarily, and then we ran into everyone leaving the inn. They were all getting ready to head off down the road. Roy and Laurie saw my new bag on my back. So that's what you wanted to get. Tigra said you went off to the market for something." I smiled at him, and he looked at me funny, and then asked me, "What else did you get? I know that wasn't all you got." I opened my bag to show him what I got. From a few items of food to cooking stuff. I got a blanket roll and a thing that looked like a cigar. That was a treat for me. I closed the bag, and then I looked at Tigra. "Well, let's get going then. We have lots of ground to cover. We need to be at the Village of Roses by the winter solstice." She told us, and I was still determining when that was supposed to be. Still beside me, Ole said, "Miss Tigra, that's only 3 weeks away. It should only take us 2.5 weeks." Tigra was not worried about us making it in time, but she was concerned about the battles we might see in the coming weeks. "All right, let's get going then," Roy said, edging us to move on from this village. As we went on, I could feel that tension building again. I was the odd man out here. Humans are rare companions in this world. So many did not know what I was like. Was I an asshole, or was I a nice person? Did I hide resentment towards other races? I was new to this one. I didn't know the norm, but I knew how people could be. I tried to be the exception. I tried to be understanding of everyone I'm around. This whole time, I've only known this world for half a day. I see much of my old world. My mind was all in the clouds, not paying attention to my companions watching me. "Hey, Mr. Willow, are you okay, sir?" Belle, the red-skinned woman near me, asked. I turned to her, snapping back to reality. "Oh, sorry. I was lost in thought, trying to prepare myself for this world," I said. I tried to smile, but I couldn't form one. "Why are you doing that? Don't you know how this world works?" Tigra asked me from in front of the party. I shook my head no. I was just summoned to this world. I have no prior knowledge of this world, or even this land we walk on. All I know is how to fight and who I need to serve, I said, sounding like a prophet. Tigra shook her head. "Well, you should know some more about this world. I know we talked about some yesterday, but today is a good day to chat about history," she told me, and I agreed. The story of my new world. About 1,000 years ago, there were only 4 kingdoms. One of the humans, elves, beastmen, and demons. There are 7 now, but no humans. The kingdom does not exist anymore. That was because of the first war on this land. The humans wanted to take over everything, so they first went to take out the demons. Many villages were taken, destroyed, and people killed. Nothing was left in the humans' path. The remaining demon race took arms in the mountains they used to call home. The humans could not find them, and took the beastmen's and elves as homes. They didn't let the humans win that at all. A force of both kingdoms eliminated everyone involved in the conquering of villages. The demons got their home back. Villages started rebuilding, and humans who were left were enslaved or went into hiding. After that, the demon began to grow. They were building 2 kingdoms. That's when the demons started their march. They crossed the great ocean of Naru. They took a whole continent by themselves. They lived over there for centuries until about 7 years ago. They now want war with everyone who let the humans kill their people, the ones from the past. I was tasked with crushing the demons of all 5 ally kingdoms here. I listened to Tigra tell me this story as we walked. She was worried even more about me knowing the truth about the humans. I said, "Sounds like a human thing to do. In my home, humans fought each other over things like that. Some even killed for water and food. I'm sorry they did that. I'm not like other humans. I hate other humans. Well, not all humans. I hold a special place for my brothers from my world." Tigra smirked slightly. "You have something to say for everything, don't you?" I laughed with her. "Yeah, but I'm just me. I'm not anyone else." I said back to her as I felt eyes watching us. I looked to the woods ahead of us. A large animal with red scales and glowing yellow eyes blocked the path. I looked at Tigra and looked scared. I looked back to see it was a dragon, but something scarier than I imagined. "Let me deal with this one," I told Tigra, and she let me confront the giant monster. I walked right up to it as it was lying on the road. Still not taking out my sword, I looked at what was wrong. I saw an eggshell on the ground. "What happened here?" I said to it. The dragon looked right at me. I saw anger in its eyes. "I'm not the one who did that. I'm just traveling with my party to stop the demons," I said to it, and it let out a roar. It was then told in a human woman's voice. "They destroyed my egg for my child's crystal. I'm looking for the creators who did it. I feel like you're lying for your—" I stopped her as I said, "Now you wait one moment, miss. We just started our journey down this road. But I can see if I can help you find the culprit," I said to the dragon, and she was curious about how I would be able to find the person responsible. I looked at the party and got an idea stuck in my head. What if I get the mages to track who did this? I then looked at the eggshell and saw tracks. I ran over to the party to tell them what was going on. I told them, and the 2 mages, Roy and Laurie, said to everyone, "We might be able to track or see what killed that dragon egg." A smile crept over my face for a moment. Then we all went over to the dragon. She patiently awaited us. Laurie looked around momentarily, then noticed what we were seeing. A gang of goblins was to blame, but they weren't alone. Something big was with them, something as big as a giant. Then Tigra said in a frightened tone, "They have a mountain troll with them. I was concerned by this discovery, from what I knew from my world. Mountain trolls are massive, destructive monsters. They will eat anything they want. They're also somewhat intelligent, like regular people. The dragon was still waiting for us to tell her who did this. But my question was, why did they take a dragon crystal? I said to myself, looking in the direction the monsters had gone. The dragon looked at me as it went to take off. I told her, we should all go with you. Tigra and the dragon both thought I was crazy. That's when Oli said behind me, we should stop that troll before it kills someone else. Everyone agreed, and then we jumped on the dragon's back and flew a bit. We could see the colossal troll heading for a small village to the east. I felt my heart start to sink. I saw the body of the baby dragon in its hand. I could feel the dragon's rage build with mine. How could something be that heartless and kill a baby? I pulled my sword from my back, preparing for the fight. That's when I got hit by an arrow from the trees. The valley this village was in camouflaged the goblins. They thought that was an excellent time to ambush anyone following. But when the arrow hit me, it didn't pierce my armor. It got reflected and drew our attention to them. Tigra jumped off and went after them. The dragon and I went after the troll. The beast was just as big as this lady dragon I was hanging on to. For a moment, she floated above it till it saw us. I jumped off and cut its left eye with my sword. It roared in pain as it dropped the body of the baby dragon. I landed next to the body. It was white, but I could see a bit of red in its tail. I'm sorry you died like that, little one. I bet you we would have been a force if you hatched properly. I said to it and touched it to feel it was still warm. I watched it as it began to burn into ash. The last thing left was the crystal that it had inside. I picked it up and felt its warmth and the power flowing into me. I looked to see the mother dragon fighting with the troll. I looked back at the crystal in my hand. I heard something running at me and saw it was Tigra and the party. She saw the crystal in my hand. You are going to fight the troll with that, aren't you? She asked me, and I nodded. Then I charged at the pair fighting away from me. I ran right to the feet of the monsters. Then I climbed up the dragon, charging up my lighting magic. I unleashed a bolt of lightning so strong the light tanned my skin. The shock from my magic stunned the troll for a moment. Then I felt my heart burning from the crystal. I raised both hands and shot a dragon fireball right at the troll. I kept it up till the red dragon could finally kill the troll. She used her sharpened tail to spear the troll through the head. The monster dropped dead by the dragon's feet. I landed back on the ground, still holding the crystal, and yelled. Then I looked up at the dragon. I held up the crystal to her, saying, I'm sorry, the body turned to ash. This stone was the only thing left. I held it still, and she seemed to be calm. Then, a bright light hit my eyes. I looked to see a woman in a red dress in front of me. She got closer, and I could feel this woman was still the dragon. She picks the stone out of my hand. She would have been the best of us. That's what my hope was for my child. Those greedy beasts, I think you should keep this on you. She seemed to like you in her final moments. The woman told me that her race turns to ash once they die. Also, they have stones inside that hold power. She also said to me that some other races die in weird ways. Some turn to stone, while others turn to ash or vanish. This was interesting, but as we talked, I noticed she made the stone necklace for me. She then put it around my neck. Please take care of my little Rose. In return, she'll take care of you, young man. The dragon then turned back into her dragon form and was getting ready to leave us. Ma'am, what should I call you? I asked her, and she looked at me funny. Then she replied, they call me Ro. Then she flew away as I gave her my name. Everyone looked at me as I watched the dragon disappear over the horizon. We should get back moving down the road. We have a lot of ground to cover after that, said Tigra, making everyone grab what we needed for the monster we slayed. After an hour or so of traveling, we reached where we were on the road. I have been looking at my new necklace for a while now. It was red with a hint of gold mixed into it. Half the day went by when I saw it was getting dark. I also noticed that everyone was getting tired. Hey Tigra, we should set up camp for the night. I see everyone is getting tired. I told her, and she looked back and saw I was right. Let's go a bit more, then we can settle by that huge tree, she said. pointing at a substantial willow-like tree ahead of us. Everyone was relieved. I felt tired from just walking alone. After another 10 minutes, we came to the tree, and I left my bag on the ground. I quickly went to work setting up a campfire pit. I then put up a stand to cook food on. After I did that, I helped Laurie and Roy set up their tent. After that, I ran over to the nearest water source and boiled it over the fire. I sat by the fire till the water was ready. Then, I made a quick soup for the hungry party as I cut the wild vegetables that Laurie found. I could feel Tigra watching me. She was looking at how I was using my cooking knife. Then, I dropped everything into the pot and put more wood on the fire. I sat there for a long time until Tigra sat with me, waiting for the food to be done. I watched the fire as it danced in the pit. I was remembering the times I had with my brothers. My older brother and I were close. I was close to them all. But my eldest brother was someone different. The memory I thought of was when we were 21, drinking at a family get-together, telling stories and enjoying life. I smiled, and Tigra laughed, asking, "What's on your mind?" I stopped smiling and replied in a sad tone, "I had a night like this with my older brother. The weather was nice and there was a warm fire. Life was simple back then. People weren't as distant as they are now." I picked up a stick and started poking at the fire. I do miss them a lot, but I believe I'm in the right place for me right now, I added, and Tigra got closer to me. "Why do you believe that, Jacob?" she asked, and I dropped the stick to check on the soup. I said, "Back in my world, I wasn't doing anything meaningful. This life gives me purpose besides just making food." I took a sip of the soup, and my smile came back. "You seem to like cooking, though. Why do you hate doing it for work?" She asked me, and I told her I like cooking for myself and not for people who don't appreciate good cooking. She thought I was funny, and she laughed. Laurie and Belle turned to hear her. Belle smiled, saying, "That's a first for her. Have you ever heard the hero laugh like that?" Laurie smiled too. "No, I've never heard our boss laugh like that once. Not once in the 5 years we've been together," Laurie said to Belle. Tigra stopped and returned to her serious self. I looked at the other two, and I smiled. "You're hungry. The soup I am making is done, and the sun is setting." I told them, and everyone's ears perked up when I said something about food. We then all sat around the fire and ate the food. I started to get tired. I rolled out my bag and lay up on the tree trunk. I watched everyone eat more of the soup as I slowly fell asleep. I passed out to the sound of Ole telling stories of the old days, of the wars he was in when he was younger. He went on and on about his scars till he passed out. For the first time in years, I slept like a baby. That was when I started to get cold. When I opened my eyes, I began to feel warmer. I looked to see that Tigra was leaning on my shoulder. She turned slightly to see where she was and got off my shoulder. "Good morning, Tigra. I hope you guys enjoyed the food from last night," I said to her, and she nodded. "That soup was good. What are you planning to make tonight?" she asked, and I smiled. "We'll have to see when I can find something to hunt on our travels." A week later, I am walking along this stupid long-ass road. Everyone likes me for the most part. Roy still treats me like an inconvenience, even though I've helped him a lot. Tigra and I grew to be friends. Some fights during our trip west have been weird. A goblin here and there. A couple of rough demonic wolves. Nothing too overpowering. They are just annoying attacks that lead to nothing. We are now a couple of miles away from an ocean village. Wait, aren't we a week early to this? This town was supposed to be another week away. I said out loud, and Tigra agreed that it was too early. We looked to see what the village was. And it was the village where I met some kind of captain. I was getting tired with sore feet. My mind was on the cigar in my pack, so I pulled it out before we came to the village's entrance. I put it in my mouth as I brought out a lighter I had stored in my pocket. Tigra gave me a weird look as I lit the cigar. I took a long drag and let it burn as we walked. "Why do you smoke those things?" she asked me, and I smiled with the cigar hanging from my mouth. "Well, this brings me joy. I don't have much in this world right now, so this helps me get acquainted," I told her. Tigra now looked sad for me. Then I was asked to do something out of the blue. I was left in a world I knew nothing about, only to be given one mission. I was to protect her with my life. I'm, for the most part, contemptuous of what is asked of me. I had my magic, which was growing with every passing day. My fighting power seems to remain the same, but I can see that my reflexes are getting better. Tigra and I grew to be a perfect duo. She would attack the monsters, and I would stop them. I could make her smile, but she only did that when we were alone. We camped out for most of the week. We'd come across a ruin or two. But this was the first time I'd seen another civilization. The Beastmen ran this one. Ones like Tigra's associated with. She looked back at me and told me to stay silent. I looked at her like she was asking me a dumb question. Why should I stay silent? I'm not going to say something to draw attention, I said, being as defiant as I had ever been. These people will take you in custody if you disrespect them. I knew you wouldn't do anything you thought was harmful, but these beastmen are not like me. They see all humans as animals, enslaved people, and cattle. She said back to me, and I understood what she was trying to do. She was trying to help me stay out of trouble. I sighed and nodded. Okay, hero, I'll be quiet for now. But if someone tries anything with me, I will defend myself. I said back to her, and she agreed. Yes, don't let yourself get hurt, but be mindful of everyone around you, she told me, and I nodded again. We were being watched for a while as we walked through the village. We came to a massive building with adventures going in and out of. Tigra opened the door for everyone. She waited till I was the last one going into the building. Hold up for a moment, Jacob, she said, pulling me aside inside the building. I need you to stay close to me for a bit. The guildmaster is a very peculiar woman. She likes young-looking men. You may be the same age as me, but have a young face. She'll try to seduce you when she sees you. I laughed. You won't have to worry about me, my dear, I said to her, making this tiger woman blush. I walked with her to the guild's front desk. I saw a couple of ladies watching me. Then, one of them looked at Tigra. Oh, Miss Tigra, the master is talking with a town official in her office, but you can go in to let her know you're here. Tigra tapped my shoulder, and I went with her. Everyone else sat down in the lobby. We walked up a set of stairs to the top floor. Then we went down the hall to a massive glass door. On the other side was a wolf beast woman. She was white with long white claws and red markings all over her fur. What caught my eye were her eyes. They seemed to start glowing when she spotted me. Her bright blue eyes seemed to be locked on mine. She stopped the conversation she was having with the official. Miss Tigra, who's this that you brought with you? She asked as we entered the door. Tigra looked at me, and I smiled. I'm Jacob Willow, and I've just recently joined the Heroes Party. It's a pleasure to meet you, Guildmaster, I said to her, bowing my head a bit. The official, who was a wizard, noticed I was a human. Son, are you a servant of Tigra's? He asked, and I felt my anger build a bit. The air got colder too, but just then I felt Tigra put a hand on my shoulder. No, he's a free man and my best defender. Please don't disrespect him again, Gandhi, she said to him, having me calm down. I'm sorry, Sir Jacob. I meant no disrespect. The wizard told me, and I apologized for getting upset. I'm still getting used to my new life. I don't know what came over me, Mr. Gandhi. I bowed my head to him, and my necklace popped out. I stood back up and put my necklace away. Gandhi held out his hand, and we talked for a moment. Tigra and the guild master looked at us. Strange human. He's from another world, right? The guild master asked, and Tigra sighed. Yes, the goddess of life sent him from another world. He wasn't doing well over there, and she saw something was coming, so she gave him a mission to protect my party. She said that someone is going to betray the party. She might be right, but this mission might end sooner than expected with his added power. Tigra said, smiling at me while I was talking with the wizard. I was showing him my understanding of my magic. He was interested in my development and gave me pointers. The guild master saw Tigra smiling while she watched me. You like him, hero, don't you? She asked her, and Tigra whipped the smile off her face. He's just a human. He's got lots of potential, but he might be the one who betrays us, Tigra said, and the guildmaster scoffed at her. I don't think that will come to pass. Humans have something in common with each other. They can't hide their true intentions well. I was oblivious to the conversation about me there. I was more focused on the discussion with Gandhi. Then the headmaster clapped her hands. All right, let's get this meeting going, she said, getting me to sit with Tigra at the desk. You guys need passage across the ocean, but since you're here a few weeks early, I need you to sit for a while. Tigra looked at me. What do you need from us? It seems like you're asking us to do something, she asked, and the guildmaster smiled and then looked at me. I need help with a few monsters in the forest near the road. They've been picking off a bunch of newcomers. I don't have the party equipped and assembled to do this task. But since you're here, I can see you won't have a problem, she said, and I smiled under my helm as I put it on. I can go take care of this, Tigra, if you let me, I said, and Tigra nodded in agreement. Yes, go find these monsters and take care of them, she ordered, and I cracked my knuckles as I left the room and headed downstairs. I passed the party, and they saw the look on my face. Tigra gave you a job, didn't she? Ole asked me, and I told him what I was tasked to do. He came with me for backup, and we ran to the road. Tigra and the guildmaster were still in her office talking about me. He's a strange one, and he also follows orders well. Not human-like behavior at all, Guildmaster said, and Tigra agreed. Yes, but he's not like our humans. He's loyal to a fault, but he's also kind and gentle. Jacob can also cook. His food is something to die for, Tigra said, not realizing she was praising me. Yes, I can see why you like him. He's a strong one too. I can sense his magical power. His armor hides his muscular body, but you can still sense that too, the Guildmaster said, making Tigra blush a bit. Damn it, can you stop trying to take him from me? Tigra said, sounding like a little girl fighting over her doll. The Guildmaster giggled a bit under her breath. Sorry, dear, you found another good man to add to your party. I was done with eliminating the monsters plaguing the roads. I drew my sword out of a monster's chest as I looked at Ole. I packed a few drops, and Ole had a few for himself. Looks like we get to drink tonight, Ole, I told him, and he looked happy. Yes, let's return to the village then, Jacob, he said, and we both went back. We returned to the guild hall, and I received our rewards for the monster extermination, many gold and silver coins. Then we saw the other party members were worried about something. What's up, guys? Where's Tigra? I asked, and Roy said, she's not returned from the guild master's office. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I ran up the stairs, not letting anyone stop me. I ran down the hall and busted into the office. Tigra was sitting on the couch talking to the guild master. She jumped up when I broke down the door. Are you okay, Tigra? I yelled, and she saw how scared she was that she was hurt. Oh damn, what time is it? The guildmaster asked, and saw that the sun was setting. Then she looked back at me. Wait, you're done with the monsters already? She asked, and I just kept looking at Tigra. I'm okay, Jacob. I just lost track of time. Is the party all downstairs waiting for me? She asked me, and I breathed. Yes, we killed all we could see. We got the rewards for the monsters, and yes, the party is waiting for you downstairs. Roy said you had not returned, so I came running. I said back to her, and the guildmaster started to laugh. I don't think I'd be able to do anything to our hero here if I wanted to. She's the strongest fighter in these walls, said the guildmaster. I looked away towards the door I had just broken. Sorry about that, guildmaster. I'll fix it right now. I told her about using good old hard labor to fix it. That's when Gandhi used a spell and set it himself for me. I looked at the wizard, and he just grinded. You do have a loyal heart, like what Miss Tigra said. Next time, be more observant before entering a battle. He told me I agreed with that advice, and took it to heart. Tigra, getting embarrassed, grabbed me and had us go back downstairs. We arrived at the lobby, where everyone was waiting for us. Tigra looked disappointed but happy that I would go to such lengths to save her, even breaking down doors for her, but she still scolded me for breaking the door. Jacob, you could see through the window that I was fine. Why didn't you check first? She asked me, and I bowed my head down a bit. I did think of that at the moment. I just reacted to the moment. I'm sorry for not taking a moment to look before barging in, I said back to her, and Tigra crossed her arms. She smirked, then told me, just be more cautious about what you do next time. I know you meant to protect me, but I can handle myself. She placed her hand on my shoulder, and I nodded after a brief 10-minute conversation. We took a week off from adventuring till the boat to take us across the ocean arrived. I went off alone with the mind to practice my magic a bit. I stayed close enough to keep an eye on Tigra. 4 days in, with my self-training, I found myself stuck. I had no formal training with magic. I realized this while sitting on a bench near the guild building. I could use the magic I was given, but I could use actual spells, nothing like Gandhi or the elven siblings. I could only manifest the base power of the magic. I couldn't make anything unique with my spells. I pondered this for an hour till I felt Laurie watching me. She was watching me play with my ice magic. She walked up and sat right next to me. "Are you trying to figure out our magic system in this world?" she asked me, and I nodded yes. "I know I can manifest the magic, but from there, I've never done anything spectacular," I said, and she nodded, knowing what I meant. She looked at her bag for a second, then pulled out a book. "Here, Jacob, this book my brother gave me when I learned my magic. It's not the same type, but it might explain how magic works here." She gave me the book and was blushing as I grabbed it. "Thank you, Laurie. I appreciate this," I said, opening the book to the middle chapter. I saw how the people in the book were holding their hands. I then noticed that they used the word magic instead of runes or equipment. I wondered if any books in this village could help me. To help me with my type of magic, or if I have to make my spells. I looked in the bag of coins on my belt. I had lots of gold left. "Could I find one here, though?" I asked myself, and Laurie laughed. "There is a shop here that sells books for magic, but I'm unsure if they have anything on non-spoken magic spells." She told me, and I looked around to see where the shop was. "Oh right, you're not from this world. You don't know our writing and signs yet." She said it made me feel like a child. She got me up, and we went to a few shops until I found a book on elemental ice and lightning magic. I say essential, but lighting magic is a rare form of magic, so I'd have to learn fire magic before learning more about my lightning. So I practiced magic with Laurie and sometimes Roy for a day or two. In my free time, I learned about this world's writing system and its other systems. Then, on the last day of waiting for the ship to arrive, I learned 2 spells for my ice and lightning. One was a wall of ice that could freeze anything. The other one was a lightning cage. Roy seemed impressed by this revelation, but tried to keep his enthusiasm to a minimum. I had a smile on my face till Tigra came to me at the party at the docks. I kept my distance from her all week, but kept my eye on her movements. Just like I was tasked with doing, she handed me a bag. "Carry this to my cabin on the ship, please," she ordered, and I grabbed the bag with a smile. "Sure, I'll take it right now," I said, putting it over my shoulder. She smiled as I went on ahead of the party. Something was off, but I couldn't guess what she was doing. I found her cabin a bit after passing several doors. The captain of the ship saw me set the bag down and asked, "You're not the hero. Who are you, human?" she asked, and I turned to her quickly. "I'm Jacob Willow, the hero's new party member." She asked to bring this to her cabin while talking to the rest of the group. I told the female captain, and she folded her arms, not believing my story. "What's in the bag, may I ask?" she asked me, and I didn't even know. "Sorry, I don't know what Tigra has in this bag, and I'm not going to open it without her permission," I said, standing in the captain's way. She was going to force me to move, but she couldn't even pull at my arm. Right then, Tigra came into the room to see I was already in trouble. "Oh, hero, you know this human?" the captain asked her, and she scolded the captain. "Yes, he's my new warrior. He brought my bag here so I could talk to the others." "Why are you harassing my friend here?" She seemed to get angry when the captain grabbed my arm. "Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Tigra. I thought he was up to no good." The captain turned to me and bowed her head. "I'm sorry, Mr. Willow. I just thought you were doing something to harm my ship." She apologized until she was blue in the face. I put up my hand and stopped her from bowing to me. "I'm grateful for the apology, but you were just looking out for the hero. Please don't apologize. I feel hurt by your actions," I said to her, and she raised her head. "Well, if that's all, I'll set sail soon, get some rest for you both, and dinner will be ready after we launch," the captain said, and I smiled. Tigra shook the captain's hand and then looked at me. The captain left, and it was just her and me. I shook my head, knowing what she was thinking. "I'm sorry for that, Tigra. I was just minding my business, and she asked me about the bag. She asked me if I knew what was in the bag. I said no, and wouldn't let her touch it without your permission." I told her, and she nodded as I spoke. She put her hand on her chin, and then went into deep thought. No harm was done, and you didn't break anything this time. Thank you, Jacob. Now go rest for the night. I know you need it from all that training you've been going through, she said, pointing to a bed in the corner of her cabin. You mean here? I asked her, and she nodded. I had an extra bed to put in here. The others are partnered up as well, so that we can ensure we won't get ambushed on this trip on the ocean, she said, going over what she had discussed with the rest of the party. I shrugged my shoulders and then sat on the bed. I took off my armor and shirt and lay in bed. I looked at the ceiling for a moment, then at Tigra. She was changing into her sleepwear and was almost nude. I turned my body away from her, and she looked at my scarred back. Not from this world's battles, from when I was younger. Why do you have those marks all over your body, Jacob? Tigra asked me, and I sighed and sat up to tell her my story. The short version. Jacob's past. When I was a kid, I was about 18. I got involved with a gang. A sinister group of people wanted me to help them steal. They also had me bodyguard some people who were worse than the gang. Real crime lords, people who kill for fun. I learned to fight well, and I needed the money. I never killed anyone, but I hurt a lot of people for them. The scars on my back are from the jobs I had to do. The last straw for me when I got out of the crime lord's grasp was when I was ordered to shoot a cop. A man of the law, a hero much like this world's knights. I knew this guy had kids and a wife. I said no to the boss and was cast out of the gang. They beat me till I was almost dead, then dropped me off in some random ditch. I survived, but lost everything I had. I eventually got a new job, a cook at a restaurant. I started writing for fun and to build my life back up. It took me 5 years to recover, but I knew that the gang was looking for me. So I kept my distance from my family. And I was right about that because my apartment was broken into many times, when I thought I had nothing more to push for. The goddess of life gave me a second chance at a new life. I looked at Tigra, and she seemed to understand what I was telling her. She walked over to me and put her soft hand on the right side of my face. You're in a good place now. I'll never ask you to do something like that. If you can't, you won't have to do that here. She told me, and I felt my eyes get tired momentarily. Rest now, Jacob. I'll wake you when dinner is done. She told me, and I fell asleep about a minute later. The dreams I was having made me cry a bit in my sleep. I was dreaming about my mother. She was leaving me for the last time before I joined the gang. All I heard from her was, "You better not get your brothers involved, or I'll turn you in myself." I opened my eyes and smelled food. Fresh food. My stomach growled. I better get something to eat soon, or I'm going to eat my leather boots, I said to myself, getting up from my nap. I got out of bed and saw a new shirt and pants on the table for me. I put them on and then went to find where the food smell was coming from. I had no armor on, and the water's smell was refreshing. I came to the mess hall-like area. There, everyone but Tigra was eating food. I smiled a bit, then sat down slowly next to Ol. You had a nice nap, I see, said Ol, poking fun at my messy hair. I looked at my reflection in the window. I laughed. Yeah, Tigra told me to nap, and I passed out for a while. I said right as Tigra came into the room. She saw that I was up, and now eating with the group. I was going to wake you, but when I came back to the room, you were up and gone, she said to me, sitting on my free side. Everyone looked at the two of us for a moment. I felt what they all thought, and a smile came over my face. It's not like that, you guys. I am in the same room, but I was just napping, I said, taking a drink of water that a ship worker had given me. Tigra looked at everyone and saw their faces. Oh, that's what you all just thought. No, we are just sharing the room like you four, she said, and they all looked at each other. Sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if you two were together like that, Miss Tigra, said Roy. Smiling at us, Tigra looked at me and blushed. What do you mean by that, Roy? She asked, and Roy sighed. He's a kind and strong man. Any woman would be fighting each other for a man like him. I spit out my drink. That's what people think about me, that I'm a kind person, nothing else, I asked, and Roy kept smiling. Well, that's one thing known about you. But we've only been traveling with each other for 2 weeks. I need more time to see what you are like. He told me, and I looked away. He was right about that. I looked at Ole and shrugged. Yeah, I guess you're right about that, Roy. I might be an asshole, or I just might be a nice guy down to my core, I added, and he laughed at me. I laughed with him as the captain of the ship gave me food. She sat with us and asked me what kind of warrior I was. I looked up from my meal and I looked at her. She was right in front of me. Well, I'm a bit of everything. I can fight like Ole, but I have magic abilities like a mage. Then I am on par with the best paladins worldwide for my defensive skills. I said, go on and on about myself. The captain looked at Ole and Tigra to confirm if I was lying. They both smiled and nodded at her. He's an adventuring magic knight, she said, and I turned my head to Tigra, wondering what a magic knight was. She saw I was confused. Right, you don't know. I can have Roy tell you about that, she said, pawning me off to Roy, and I watched him sigh. World job and classifications. As an adventurer, there are dozens of classes of warriors. The most common were paladins, assassins, knights, and mages or wizards. The rarest are the berserkers, heroes, and healers. The places people of these types sign up are guilds. Guilds are organizations throughout the world's kingdoms that help fill out quests. Adventures are selected if they match the guild's requirements. Every city, village, or town has at least one. The guild is a place for adventures to gain jobs for money. By completing the jobs, they select on the job boards. Not one guild is the same as another. In short, a guild is a place for adventures to call home and make money, like a permanent job and a place to live if needed. The other warrior classes, like magic knights and higher courses of those types, are usually meant for different jobs, like joining the armies and protecting the kingdoms from threats like wars and terrorists. Roy looked at me now, understanding this world's job systems more. So my class type is Magic Knight, I asked, and he shrugged. Yes, but you are more like a berserker type like Ole. He told me, and I smiled. I don't know if I like being that rare warrior type. I said out loud, and Tigra wondered why. What, do you not want to work for a royal family someday? She asked, and I shook my head no. In most of the books I've read back home, the bodyguards of royal families end up getting killed or blamed for accidents, like if the king or whoever gets assassinated, I said. And everyone looked at me like I was crazy. Even the captain looked at me like that. Has that happened a lot back home? The captain asked me, and I nodded yes. We all changed the subject after that. We resumed eating dinner. I loved the meal. But something was missing for me. I was missing my brothers and my friends from my old world, or some decent people in the gang. Right next to me, Ole passed a mug of mead to me. My friend, drink and enjoy the meal with this. He told me I took a long, heavy drink from the mug. Everyone watched like that night at the inn. Ole smiled. That's one thing I know about you. You can drink something furious. He talked about me to Roy. Roy laughed a bit and agreed. Still drinking more of the mead, I ate my last bite. I whipped my face and got up from the table. I wanted to go and rest, but Tigra asked to come with me. She looked like she wanted to ask me a question. I let her tag along as I went to the ship's deck. There, I could see how vast the ocean was. I leaned on the deck's railing and stared hard at the waves. Tigra was right next to me, watching the waves too. She coughed and asked me, "What do you plan on doing once you finish this mission?" I looked right at her. She was still facing forward. Well, I was thinking of becoming an adventurer or farmer. I haven't decided yet, but I will once we get to the end of this adventure. I told her, and she wondered why I hadn't decided yet. Do you know where you'll settle down? She asked me again. I smiled and looked forward. I plan on returning with you all to the Dragon's Talon Guild, I told her, and Tigra blushed. Why there? She asked, and I laughed. I like you guys so far, and if the guild you come from has more people like you guys, I would love to live in the same area as you. I told her, and she placed her hand on my left hand. I'm sure my guildmaster would love to have you. He's a bit like Ole, but he loves strong members. She told me, I loved the thought of a new life after this mission. Maybe I can become a world-class adventurer or become a quiet farmer. I'll aim for these choices until I can make them. First encounter. The air was heavy, and the rain wasn't letting up. The smell of the ocean was behind me, as everyone was in front of me. The week at sea was hard. There was not much to do. I spent that time training in magic and learning more about this world. which made the week of ocean time seem like only a few days. Now, with us off of the ship, it was time to head north to the Demon Queen's castle. I got closer to the party, but something with Belle seemed off. Ever since we got here, she's been cold. I put that back in my mind more than she usually was. I saw everyone was eager to finish this quest faster. I understood this. They'd been on this mission for almost 5 years. I can understand. Being away from home sucks. I threw my bag over my shoulder as we left the ship behind. Walking through the land, we saw that most of the people there were demons. I also felt the hate coming from them. Not all demons wanted to fight us, but no one would let me into the shops or inns. I learned that not every demon is part of the Demon Queen's army or empire. The one we made seemed to like everyone else besides me. I'm human, so this was to be expected. Humans in this world are not very appreciated because of what they did. I was outside the inn, leaning on the wall. I wasn't allowed in, so I just stayed here eating the snacks I made. I looked up from my snack to see a small child watching me. "Hello, little one, are you lost?" I asked the child, and he pointed at my sword. "Ah, you want to see this," I said, sitting on the ground with the sword for him to look at. He ran over and touched the sword. "Be careful, the blade is sharp and could cut you." I told the kid, and he looked up at me. His pointed tooth hung out of his mouth a bit. "You're the first demon to interact with me. Thank you," I told him. He smiled at me, but then ran away. I got back up and saw Tigra was watching me. "At least the kids seem to like you, Jacob," she told me, bringing me some dinner. I smiled at her till someone hit me with a rotten vegetable. I watched Tigra's face turn into a savage. Her eyes glowed red, and her magic overflowed into a fire. I turned to see a crowd of people holding pitchforks and torches. "Leave our village, humans. We don't want your kind here." A man threw another vegetable at me. This time, I caught it with my hand. I froze it in my hand and then crushed it. "I will leave, but ask me why you hate me without knowing me." I asked them, and the man looked right at me and said, "Because you're the villains who've destroyed my ancestors." I laughed. "I'm only 28 years old. I'm not even the same kind of human that lives in this world," I said back to him, and he looked at me weirdly. "He's not a regular human. He is my—" I stopped Tigra from yelling by grabbing her shoulders. "It's not worth worrying about, Tigra. I can camp in the forest till we set out again." I said to her. Everyone from the party was now outside. They were all angry with the villagers for what they were doing. Ol said outright, "We'll just leave this village. We have enough supplies to last another week." Ol said, looking in his bag at what he had. The villagers looked at the leader, who threw the stuff at me. They began to rethink casting me out, but it was too late as we left the village. Everyone watched us as we disappeared into the forest. We walked for an hour until we came to an excellent stop to set up camp, like the second night I arrived. I sat next to a tree, watching the fire. Everyone besides Tigra sat around it. She was standing next to the river we were next to. I felt terrible that we had to sleep outside again. I lifted my hand and looked at it. I saw I had a scar from something I had done here. I don't remember where I got this from. Tigra came over by me and saw me looking at my hand. "When did you get that?" she asked, and I shrugged. "I have no idea. I've just realized I had it," I told her. She sat right next to me and looked it over. "You got cut by your sword somehow," she told me, and I laughed. "I must have done that by showing that kid my sword. Otherwise, I'm careful with my sword," I said, and Tigra smacked me over the head. "You're always showing off to the kids. You don't need to do that. Your look alone is enough to impress anyone," she said, making fun of me for a moment. I put my hand down and looked at the fire once again. Tigra laid her head on my shoulder. Everyone by the fire was watching, but their heads were pointing towards the fire. I smiled. "Thank you, guys," I said, slowly falling asleep with the fire crackling away. I didn't dream that night, and I just faded to black. I woke up right as the sun was rising. I looked to see Tigra was up and standing right in front of me. I saw a demon looking at us. He was with the kid from yesterday. The guy bowed to him and said, "I'm sorry for starting that riot yesterday. I was scared for my child. I heard stories that humans were cruel beings, that you would abduct children for their sacrificial rituals. I had no idea you are different from the stories." He kept bowing his head, apologizing to me. After a moment of hearing all of that, I stopped him. I appreciate you coming to tell me that. Seeing someone for who they are is a good thing. But what you see is not always what you get. I am not like the humans of this world. I'm from another world altogether. So the stories of this world of humans may be true. I told him that the man looked skeptical of me being a different kind of human. He looked at Tigra as she nodded about me coming from another world. I then coughed and continued saying, "Keep an open mind about my kind, though. This era of humans might have changed from the conquerors of the past." I expressed my concerns about them being too open. Sometimes, when you let your guard down, people can betray you out of nowhere. I know this from my world's history, plenty of stories about friends betraying one another for glory or personal gain. I left the man with those words, and we all packed. We headed north, still on the march to defeat the Queen. For the next few days, everything was more complex and more challenging. We ran into battling armies trying to take over cities and towns by force. I fought so much I could feel myself changing. I was getting faster at fighting with my powers. I even picked up a way to use my magic. The most challenging moment was seeing a series of demons charging at a helpless village. One demon happened to kill an innocent child, and I lost my temper. I charged into the village without my party. I was more focused on eliminating the whole squad of demons. I started with the demon that killed the child, and used my lightning magic to erase the entire team coming into view. The demon's screams ran into the night air. Tigra, who was watching me, looked scared. She saw how powerful my rage was. The final demon that was left alive looked terrified of what they witnessed. I stopped my assault and looked back at the carnage. Shame and sadness came over my face. Why did I go that far? Or why did I stop at this lonely soldier? What was wrong with me? Was it because I saw that child get? I thought to myself as Tigra ran to see if I was all right. Just as everyone reached me, I heard something fall from above. I saw what looked like a bomb about to hit us. I used my ice magic to block the impact and protect my party. When I did that, the ice shattered and the blast knocked everyone out. My eyes rolled back, but I snapped to see what had thrown that at us. I hit the soldier in the face with my ice magic bullet. I put too much power behind it, and I killed the guy. I ran over to everyone and checked up on them. Using what healing magic I knew, I got everyone back on their feet. I was utterly wiped with magic energy to the point I passed out. I picked up the child who was killed, and I cried a bit. Why did they kill a child? Why did I care so much for people that weren't mine? I felt Tigra touch my back as she saw what I was holding. "Dear goddess, they went after a little boy," she said, rubbing my back a bit. Ole and everyone ran over after waking up. "I'm sorry you had to witness this, Jacob. This happens a lot during the war," Ole told me. I turned to him and saw a couple approaching us. Fearing the worst, they were the child's parents. They started bawling as they held their kid close. "I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner to stop them," I told them, and they looked up at me. They saw my tears and hugged me. "We don't blame you, sir. This was not your fault." They walked away, crying with their child in their arms. We gathered up the remaining enemy bodies. I watched Roy use fire magic to ash the whole pile. We stayed for an hour, then started walking north for more battles. At this point, my mind was almost gone. I showed everyone my hidden rage. I scared everyone and myself. My old self showed up in this new world, and I did not like it. I kept this part of me hidden from my new friends. The aging hitman didn't need to come out, not like this. Tigra was beside me, now calmed down from what she had just witnessed. "Are you okay? You seem to be hurting after doing all of that." She asked me, and I shook my head no. I've not tapped into that version of me in a long time. I'm sorry you had to watch Tigra, I said to her, and she looked at me with sad eyes. She put her soft hands on my shoulder. "Let's get you settled down. We can rest until we need to move again," she said to me, having me sit for a moment. We headed out in about 10 minutes. We needed to stop this war soon. I was not feeling good at all. It was like I had a fever or the flu. Then, around the middle of the night, I passed out. As I hit the ground, I heard Tigra call out to me. "Jacob, what's wrong?" "Oh no, Roy, catch him before he gets hurt." I slammed to the earth, feeling my whole body get hot. I started sleeping until I found myself in the sky with Freya, the goddess of life and light of this world. She had a concerning look on her face. I sat up and saw a dark figure next to her. This figure was a skeleton of a man who stood just as tall as Freya. I dusted myself off and walked up to them. My head was fuzzy, but I knew I wasn't dead yet. "Hello, Freya. It's good to see you again," I said to her and bowed my head before I changed my eyes to the new god. He smiled a bit, and then I saw him grab my shoulder. He pulled something out of me and set it next to me. "I'm the god of death and souls, and I am luscious," he said, smiling at me. I looked over at the thing he pulled out of me. It was a dark version of me. The skin was dark, and the eyes glowed red like a demon. "I see this is a version of me. What are you trying to do?" I asked, and Luscious looked at Freya. "This is a warning. You need to watch this side of you. This version of you might end up hurting the mission you're on," said Freya, trying to reach the heart with light. I looked at my dark self and asked him, "I know we may not see eye to eye, but could you do one thing for me?" The dark version of me looked right at me and nodded. "What do we need to do?" it asked, and I gave him a looking saying, "You know," and it nodded, agreeing to help me. "Protecting her is your purpose. Finding a peaceful end is our goal. I'll make sure we get there." It said, confusing Death and Freya. "How can you both agree to something so easily?" Luscious asked me, and Freya told him. "They are both the same soul, born together. They want the same thing, peace. A choice." My eyes felt light now, and I felt warm. I woke up to see Belle and Tigra to my right. Everyone was around me, and I could feel us moving. From what I assumed, they bought a horse and wagon to move me. I looked up and out of the wagon to see a dragon-like horse pulling it. I sat up slowly, trying not to scare anyone. Roy was at the helm, and the rest of the party was with me. Ole, the only one not looking at me, heard me move. Everyone else was resting their eyes. He slid over and checked my forehead. "You scared us, Jacob. How are you feeling, brother?" he asked me, and I smiled. "I'm okay. Thank you for bringing me with Ole," I said, waking up Tigra and everyone. Tigra rushed me and hugged me. That surprised me, but I held her tight. Ole gave her a funny look. Most of the time, she's more reserved with emotions. Today, we saw her eyes filled with tears. She let go of me and saw Ole's face. She regained consciousness and said, "I'm glad you're awake, Jacob. We would have been in trouble with the Demon Queen's forces." I smiled. "I'm sorry for worrying you, my dear. I had something in me that needed to be cleaned. I also had a conversation with Freya and Luisis in my dreams," I told her, and she looked concerned even more now. "What did the gods want from you?" she asked, and I closed my eyes. They wanted me to purge my dark side. I told her, and she was surprised I still have a dark side. I then added, "I can't purge something that is a part of myself. That side wants the same thing as I do. I want to finish my mission and find peace at the end." Tigra understood and knocked on the wagon. Everyone got up, and I stretched my legs when I jumped out. "Ah, how long was I out for, by the way?" I asked Tigra, and she said, "A couple of days. We had a hard time carrying you along, so we got a wagon to keep moving." I looked back at everyone, and I apologized to them. "Sorry, you guys had to do that for me, but I appreciate it to no extent." I bowed my head, and Oli put his hand on it. "We don't leave one of our behind," he told me, finally making me feel like one of them. Belle, in the background, now looked suspicious, but she had a smile. After a few minutes of stretching, I discovered we were close to our mission destination. I ate some food, and we all returned to the wagon. I sat with Roy up front as we marched onward. I talked with Roy about how my meeting with the gods went. He knew I wasn't lying, but Laurie wasn't sure I was telling the truth. I didn't take her denial to heart. I just kept talking till I felt something to our right. Something was calling for me, and it sounded like Freya. There was a run-down temple in the forest. You could see the steeple from the wagon, but just the tip of it. "Do you see that, Roy?" I asked him, and he looked at where I was pointing. "Yes, I do. How did you see that from here?" he asked me, and I told him. I can hear Freya's voice in my head. "I think we should go over there." I felt the party behind me look at us. "Why?" Tigra asked, and I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know what she wants, but usually she only communicates to help us. I said back, and I made an excellent point. Freya has only contacted me to help me. I don't know if that's against the rules of the gods, but the god of death helped me see my dark side. Roy didn't take a second thought and steered towards the temple. The forest around the temple seemed peaceful. The monsters of the area were not attacking. They even seemed to be smiling at us as we drove by. The air felt warm, and the sun came through the trees like a beacon. We stopped at the enormous doors of the temple. Faceless statues and carvings stood by the door. The statues were Freya, but you couldn't tell since they were faceless. "Is that what she looks like, Jacob?" Tigra asked, and I told her. "The body matches, but she has a gentle face." Tigra quickly turned to me and gave me a funny look. "Should we go into the building?" Roy asked, distracting Tigra. I nodded, and we all went inside the temple. At the center of the ruined building was another massive statue of Freya. At her feet were 6 chests, golden and glowing from the sunlight. "We should check those chests out," I suggested, and Tigra agreed. We all walked up and opened each one we came to. Everyone gasped as they pulled out new gear and armor, most of which looked like mine. I looked in my chest, and it only had one thing. Freya gave me a locket of my brother's, a picture of all of us together, and a note. "Jacob, I know you'll choose to stay in this world. Here's something to remember, the good things left from your original world." No one signed it, but I could feel its magic. Where a watch could be placed was a spot for my dragon ruby. I sat inside and felt the power surge through my body better. With her new armor and gear, Tigra came over to check what I got. She saw the 3 faces next to mine in the picture. "Who are those 3, in that painting? The ones next to you?" she asked as I closed the locket and put it around my neck. "Those 3 are my brothers. Freya gave me something to remember them." A tear came rolling down my face when I told her that. I missed my brothers so much, but I have a new life here, and love it here. Tigra smiled at me and rubbed my face, calming me down. "You miss them greatly. I can see that. They must have meant a lot to you," she asked, and I nodded. "They brought me back from my dark path. I will always be in debt to them," I said, and she hugged me tightly. I wanted to cry, but stepped away to look at Freya's statue. I looked at it and said to her, "Thank you, Freya. This means a lot to me." I then bowed my head, and everyone followed my lead. Tigra, after hearing my thank you to the goddess, thanked her. "Thank you for bringing here to me, Goddess Freya. He's been more than an ally to my mission." We left that place with more energy to continue the fight, to finish this war and move on to better things. I sat on the wagon and waited till we left down the road. Roy jumped on, and everyone crawled in as he snapped the reins. The dragon horse took off. We were going at supersonic speed. Trees were only a blur as the dragon's legs kept pumping. As we went right to the foot of a mountain, I could see the front gate of the Queen's castle. She had guards protecting the doors, and thousands of her troops were waiting for us. We stopped the wagon to get a better view before attacking. I turned to Tigra to see a blast of magic hit my face. I fainted to the ground. I felt my hands touch me. "I'm sorry, Jacob, but she has my sister. I can't let you beat her," said a voice as I was hung up on a bar. I woke up moments after that to see Tigra held up by her hands in front of me. We were in the castle's dungeon. I couldn't see or hear the others. Tigra and I were the only ones here. I looked to see a red demon woman looking right at me. "You're the hero sent to kill me, human?" she asked me, and I shook my head no. "I'm the hero's right hand, not her," I said, struggling to move my tied-up hands. The woman smiled at me and then touched Tigra as she slept. "Let me out," my inner dark side told me, but I held myself back. "No, we need to hear what she has planned," I told myself and heard it sigh. "Fine, but hurry up, we're too close to fail," he said, and I smiled a little. The woman looked shocked that I was smiling. "You're as crazy as Belle said. Ain't that right, my dear?" she asked the person standing behind her. Belle emerged from the shadows to reveal she was the spy, the betrayer. Still smiling, I said, "Not surprised that it was going to be you." I looked right into Belle's eyes to see her sadness. My dark side started to come out. "He suspected you'd betray Tigra in the end," my mouth said, and I bit my lip a bit. "I had to do this, Jacob. She had my sister. What would you have done in my position?" she asked me, and I looked at the Queen. "I would have done anything to save my brothers, even take on their capture myself." I told her the Queen laughed at us and then went to slap Belle. "You've said enough, my little cowbell." the queen said and swung her hand at her face. Tigra woke up and saw the slap. She roared and broke her chains, which gave me enough time to let my dark side out. He broke the binds on my hands and charged at the queen. She blocked my attack and threw me into my wall. Tigra checked on Belle and then ran to save me from the queen's next attack. She caught the queen mid-stab and tossed her through the wall beside me. I switched to the dark side of me. "It's my turn to unleash some hell," I said, letting my magic run wild. I ran through the hole in the wall to catch the queen with a right hook to her body. She was clashing with Tigra, but with my interruption. She dropped the weapon she had in her hands. I picked up Tigra from the dirt. She looked at me, and I smiled at her. "Let's do some combo attack, my dear," I told her, and she nodded, then replied, "Just go like you usually would. I'll back you up on this one." I laughed, and we charged at the queen at full speed. We struck and jabbed in mirror images together. The queen did her best to block both of us. She was catching our hits, but getting hit by my lightning magic flares. I almost got Tigra with them, but changed my magic flow in the fight. You could not picture a better duo to fight together like this. I was enjoying this fight, which sounds funny, but I was having fun going all out like this. I never looked around us, but we had an audience watching us. Even the party managed to escape their captures to protect us. I could see, though, that the queen was having fun too. "I bet she's never had two strong opponents like us to fight her," I told Tigra, and she said, "Yes, I know how that feels. Stronger than most people. That can feel lonely." The queen misstepped, and I hit her with my lightning punch. She fell to her knees, and I froze her to the ground. She looked like she wanted to tell us something. So we waited for a moment. I never wanted to do this war, but those humans started this a long time ago. They almost killed us all, and now we have to avenge those who fell. I looked at Tigra, and she looked confused. Those wars ended centuries ago. Those generations of humans are gone. Tigra told the queen, and she snorted fire at us. "That doesn't matter. Their descendants are still here. Here's one in front of me," she yelled, trying to break out of her icy cage. I got to her level, and I told her, "I'm not from this world. I was brought here to stop you from hurting this world any further." She looked right at me and smelled me like a beast. "You still smell like an average human, but you have that beast woman's scent on you. But a human is still a human. They'll never change," she said, tearing up for a second. Then she spit in my face. "I may be human, and I'm sorry if the humans of this world hurt your kind. But not every human is the same. We have values and beliefs to follow. Mine is that everyone gets a chance to repent. Don't you think that should be everyone's mindset?" I asked her, and she stopped moving. "You may be right, human, but not everyone will see that as a way out." She looked up at me and started casting a colossal spell. I put a dome of ice around her, and she released all of it at once. Roy put up a shield spell on the party as I protected Tigra. The queen blew herself up to kill us in a last-ditch effort. All the demons of the castle just stood there looking at us. Belle, now with her younger sister, stood in a safe doorway. Tigra looked to see her and then looked at me. I was smiling at that sight. "Good, she found her," I said, still holding Tigra as we looked around more. No one knew what to do, but I had to say something, so I let go of Tigra and coughed to get people to look at me. "I know we all just witnessed the end of the Queen of the Demons. I understand more than anyone about revenge, but it's not worth it. Hate just spreads more hate. We all don't need that. We just need to let stuff go. I know the humans of the old days hurt you all. Those people are not here anymore. I'm not even sure if humans are alive in this world anymore. This is what I want to leave here saying. I'm sorry you all had to fight a war that meant nothing. It's your chance to start a new life and era of demons and build something your people can be proud of." I looked at Tigra, who was watching me give this speech. "I'm going to start my new life, and I wish you all to do the same," I said, and all of the demons felt my words in their hearts. Belle came down to us and bowed her head. "I'm sorry," she pleaded, and I patted her head. "You just did what you needed to, Belle, but you need to apologize to everyone else," I told her, and she ran off with her little sister behind her. Tigra looked confused about what that was about. I saw that and told her, "She was the one who was going to betray you." The queen had her younger sister captive. I watched Tigra get angry, but then I said, if I were in her position, I would have done the same thing. You can be mad, but be understanding of her, my dear. Tigra stopped and rested her arm on my right shoulder. What next? I asked Tigra, and she laughed, now at ease. We return to the guild to complete the form of the quest, she said, and I added, how are we getting there? Roy came over with my answer. We have this crystal ball to send us back to the guild's portal ring, he told me, and I looked at the ball for a moment. Oh, we must register Jacob to the guild when we arrive. Otherwise, he won't get paid for this quest. Roy told Tigra that she looked like she had just discovered the answer to the long-forgotten question. We all gathered in the center of the rubble and activated the ball. Belle was going to stay behind. She felt her presence was not needed anymore. Tigra approached her, and Belle cringed before getting hugged by Tigra. Come visit us anytime, Belle. We still love you and would love to share stories with you again. Tigra came back over to us and nodded at Roy. He activated the ball, and we were thrown into a gate of white light. It reminded me of the area the gods stayed in. I looked over as we crossed through the other side to see Freya. She smiled at me, and I nodded like a cowboy. Tigra looked at who I was waving at and almost collapsed in the portal. We made it to the end of the portal to see 100 people waiting for us. There were mixed races from all over my fantasy brain. Dwarves, beastmen of all kinds, and a couple of vampires. There were a couple of races I didn't recognize at all. I was behind Tigra as we reached the middle of the floor. Everyone stopped cheering when they saw me. A man came up to us with a cigar in his mouth. He was an orc like Ole. You must be Sir Jacob, he asked, and I nodded. Yes, sir, I'm Jacob Willow, assuming you're the guild master. I asked, and he laughed. Yes, I am. Rael told me about you in a letter, he said to me, and I smiled bigger. What did she tell you, sir? I asked him, and he took his cigar out of his mouth. She said you're a kind soul filled with magic potential, he said, offering his hand to shake. Everyone looked confused. Who was I? They had no idea who I was. Tigra and my teammates gathered near me and told the guild. This is Jacob Willow, a magic knight who chose to be an adventurer. He helps us defeat the Demon Queen. Another change. As we all settled into being at the guild, I spent the day in a room the guild master gave me so I could rest. I lay in bed for a while, thinking about all that had transpired. I was going to an everyday life here, a life of being either an adventurer or a simple peasant. I sat up to see if it was night. I wonder what everyone's homes look like. Come to think of it, I don't know how everyone is in a normal situation. I looked at the wall as I passed out. The next thing I knew, I was awakened to the sound of laughter downstairs. I got up and headed down to see what was happening. Everyone was getting ready for their next quest. Well, not my party, but others were. My team sat at a table near the barkeep. Ole spotted me and waved me over to him. I walked right up to the table, and Ole asked me, So Jacob, what do you plan on doing now that you're here? I shrugged and said, I don't know yet. I want to join this guild, but I also want to have a quiet life. I sat at the table with them and discussed my choices. I could join the guild full-time and fill out quests for gold. 2. I could retire from fighting, become a farmer, become a real magic knight, and join a kingdom. I don't know what to do. I'm still new here. I then looked back to all the fighting and adventure I had been a part of in a month. Tigra wasn't here yet, so I couldn't ask her for advice. That is when Guildmaster Rule came to see us. He was in nicer clothes than yesterday and had a smile on his face. He saw I was puzzled about something and told me, Do what feels right, my young friend. Suppose that path leads to more adventure with a particular hero. Then do it. You won't regret it. He patted my back and then left us with 4 sacks of gold. Here's your share, Jacob, Roy said, handing me the bag of gold coins. I was going to refuse, then Roy told me to take it. You know, you could just apply to the guild. You don't have to accept jobs at all. This just gives you access to places ordinary folks can't go. I looked at everyone and then made up my mind. I want to be part of this guild. I'll only go on quests if you need my aid, I said to them, looking forward to my peaceful life. Roy then threw me a tablet with the application to become a guild member. I could read it for some reason, so I started filling it out. They wanted to know things like what magic I learned, and what I could use. What class of warrior do I come from? I looked at Roy. This part might be hard for me to fill out, I said, showing him the part I couldn't fill out. He looked at Ole, and they shrugged. We should pick a random place, or we could just say the forest outside the Ellenwood village. Ole suggested the place, which he meant was the place I was summoned to. I hesitated for a second, then chose that place. Roy took the tablet to look it over to see if I missed anything. I had left the part of the level blank. I had yet to learn what my level or rank was. Roy smiled and brought my application to the front desk. Miss Ellie, good day to you. We have a new adventurer looking to sign up for our guild. He needs a level rank and assessment. Could you help him finish this so he can complete the paperwork? He asked the elf woman. She smiled and looked at my paperwork. You're from the Death Forest of Ellenwood? She asked me, and I smiled. Yes, that is where I was brought here to this world, I said, not lying about my place of origin. Miss Ellie looked at me strangely at how I said that. She then smiled and had me follow her. We came to a room where they tested people for their magic and level. With the learning level of a person, they can use this to rank a person in the guild. I looked around the room to see an orb in the middle. Ellie walked up to it and placed her hand on the orb. I saw a number hit the screen, which looked like the number 25. This is how we measure the level of each person. The little description at the bottom tells us what element you're a match for. Here, place your hand so we can start. She told me, and I placed my hand right on the orb. My hand felt hot for a moment, then cold. The number on the screen kept climbing till it was past 200. Then, it revealed I was a natural fit for ice, fire, and lightning magic. The elf woman looked shocked, but she wasn't scared. Well, you did defeat the Demon Queen with Lady Tigra. Why was I surprised you're on the same level as her? Miss Ellie said, marking down my level and magic. Then she gave me the details of the ranking in the guilds. The guild ranking system, level 1 to 20, copper beginner, level 21 to 30, iron, average, level 31 to 40, bronze, seasoned, level 41 to 50, silver above average, level 51 to 60, gold, exceptional, level 61 to 80, platinum, gifted, level 81 to 95, diamond hero, level 100 to 150, obsidian, 3% of the guilds in the world have these level of adventures. I looked over the rankings, and a smile came across my face. The last time I saw ranking in this detail was when I was a kid playing a video game back in my world. Miss Ellie saw my smile. She wondered why I was smiling. She shook her head, but then went and made me an identification medal. This will let officials know you're part of this guild. This will also let others know what your rank is. You can update the medal each time you visit a guild, but you can only get a quest from this guild unless you apply to another after getting expelled from ours. She told me all of that, and I just nodded. I put the medal in my chest pocket and left the guild hall to get sun. When I stepped out into the world, I saw the villagers looking at me. I had not stepped out of the guild hall since we got here. This place was small, no more significant than the village I first encountered. But as I looked, I saw farms and fields full of golden wheat. I looked to the right and saw a city just on the ridge of the hill. It reminded me of the port village we came to before crossing the ocean. The people walking around were like what I'd seen during my travels. No humans ever, just demi-humans, beastmen, and people from all my fantasy books. A couple of passers saw me staring and looked at me. I looked at my body to see my armor was worn and cracked. I smelled a bit, but I didn't smell too bad. I saw a bench, and I sat down. I pulled out the bag of coins I had. I guess I can go get some clothes now. But where am I to stay? Is there a home I could buy with this amount of coin? I said to myself. I looked up to see Tigra standing before me. She wasn't wearing her armor and seemed to be cleaner. Do you have a place to stay? Tigra asked me, and I shook my head no. She saw my condition and looked to a clothing vendor near us. Let's get your armor fixed and new clothes for you, she said, grabbing me and dragging me along. We came up to the stall to see the vendor. They were an older woman who seemed to know Tigra well. She jumped at the chance to make our shopping a pleasant one. What color does this young man like Lady Tigra? She asked Tigra, and she didn't know. I like black and red colors, but I'm okay with whatever colors you have, I told them. The old lady picked a few things for me. She then wrapped it up in a box and sent it to us on our way. Tigra, still looking for things to shop for, saw I was getting tired. You said before that you didn't have a place besides the guild. Would you like to stay with me for the time being? She asked. I was going to decline her offer, but she told me, I have extra rooms with a full bath. I don't have anyone there, so it gets lonely. She looked at me, and I couldn't say no to her. I knew the feeling I had for her was love. She's been more kind to me than the others. She makes me feel like I could find that peace I've sought. Sure, I'd love to stay at your place for a while, I told her, and she smiled. You can stay with me as long as you want. I laughed, and then we went to her home. When we got to her front gate, I noticed she was part of a wealthy family. Her house was massive, more of a manor. She opened the gate, and it made no noise at all. Then we got to the door, and I saw a butler in the window. He snapped his fingers and opened the door for Tigra. My mind went back to when we got back to the guild. Some people called her Lady Tigra. Wait, are you part of a noble family? I asked her, and she nodded embarrassingly. Does that bother you, Jacob? She asked me, and I shook my head no. I just wasn't expecting it, or I should have with everyone in the village calling you Lady Tigra, I told her, and she smirked at me. She then introduced me to her servants. Everyone, this is my good friend Jacob. He's not from around here, or I should say from our world. He's a human magic knight chosen to join our guild. Tigra told them, and the fleet of servants came to see me. The butler glared at me. From what I understood, I could tell he was a vampire, just like the demons hate my kind. I greeted them all with a bow. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. I'll do my best to be a pleasant guest. I looked at the butler and saw his expression change a bit. Tigra looked at her butler and brought him over. Jacob, this is James, my head butler. If you need something from the house, just ask him. She told me, and I smiled as I held a hand for James to shake. He refused to shake it, so I drew my hand back. Tigra saw how rude her butler was being towards me. You need to show him respect, James. This man has done things to protect my party that most wouldn't believe. He left his world, family, and old life to help me and save our world. Now, he has nowhere to call home. The least I can do is offer him a place to stay. She said, starting to get angry with the butler. I grabbed her shoulder and stopped her from freaking out. Tigra, stop. It's okay for people not to like me at first. He's just being cautious with a new person. And on top of it, I'm human. They don't have a good track record in this world. I told her, and she turned to me. Her eyes retracted, and she calmed down. Why aren't you angry with how people treat you? She asked me. I looked at James. I told her, I'm used to it. I've been treated like a villain most of my life. She looked at me, heartbroken. She looked back at James. Her face looked angry, and she was going to yell again. But I just put my hand on her shoulder. He'll come around. Don't force it, Tigra. She looked at me and sighed. Fine, but James, be nicer to him while he's staying with us. She told James, and he nodded, and then he left. I got the house tour while Tigra went off to the guild hall. The person who gave me a tour was a young-looking elf woman. Her name is Terra. She was much older than you'd think. Or that's what I was considering walking with her. She was kind, but she held back her thoughts about me. Here we have the dining hall, and the courtyard is out. Tigra spends most of her time here, before and after every mission. She told me, showing me her favorite spot. She had a gazebo, with a set of nice dark wooden chairs. I touched the table in there, and I smiled. What is it, Mr. Willow? Terra asked me, and I turned to her. She was on the last mission a long time, wasn't she? I wondered, and Terra nodded. Yes, she was on that mission for a couple of years. I'm surprised she made it back in one piece, but I can see you helped her a lot. Terra said. I shook my head no. I've only known her and the gang for a few months. I was brought here to help her finish it. I stopped talking for a minute and then looked at the garden. I could see flowers and a few more servants trimming some trees. I watched as a pale woman fell from a ladder. I dashed over to catch her in my arms. The woman was another vampire like James. Terra was blinking repeatedly. She was shocked to witness my quickness. Everyone rushed over to check on the woman I saved. She blushed until she noticed I was human. She jumped off of me, and went back to work. "You're a nice person, aren't you, Mr. Willow?" Tara asked, and I shrugged. "Maybe I never try to be. I just know when people need me," I said as we returned inside the house. Tara showed me the room where I was going to be staying. The room was more significant than anything I've lived in before. I set my bag on the floor near the closet. I put my new clothes on the bed. Then I stripped down. I put my armor on the desk near the window to the far wall. I then smelled myself to smell worse with the clothes off. I was still in my pants when I heard a knock on the door. I opened the door to see James. "Sir, my lady had me run a bath for you. Would you like to wash up?" He asked me, and I nodded. "Yes, I would love to soak for a bit." James nodded at me and took me to the bath. He saw I was shirtless still and wondered why I had so many scars. He never said a word to me as we parted from the bath. I took off my pants and I jumped into the massive pool. Man, Tigra's bath is huge. I wonder what else she was here, I said to myself. Hearing someone behind me, I saw Tara behind me with some towels and a clean shirt for me. She noticed my scars too, and she asked me, "Did those hurt? The wounds, I mean?" I laughed a bit. "Some did, but most are from my fights when I was training," I told her, and she thought I was joking. "Do you need anything else, sir?" Tara asked, and I sighed. "You can call me Jacob if you want. I'm not some noble or royal prince. Makes me feel strange being called sir or mister." I told her, and she bowed her head. I dunked my head in the water to get my long hair wet. When I came up, Tara was gone. I soaked it for 10 minutes, got out, and dried myself off. I put on the towel and made my way back to my room. As I was getting dressed, I heard Tigra in the courtyard. I combed my hair back and headed outside in my new clothes. I then put my weapons and my armor into the closet. I looked again at the window. It's nice outside. Better enjoy this while I can, I said to myself. I left my room with a glance at the mirror. I looked like a fantasy noble would look like. I looked to fantasy for my taste. But this will work now, I said, walking out the door. I found my way to the courtyard again. I saw all of Tigra's servants waiting for her commands. I smiled as I saw her look at me. "You look good in those new clothes, Jacob," Tigra told me. She had me sit with her under the gazebo. Tara, the maid before me who showed me around, asked Tigra about me. "Is he a human from another world?" Tigra looked up from the cup of tea she was drinking. "Yes, he is a human from another world. He was brought here to help end the war with the demons," she told Tara, but she didn't understand why a human. Tigra then continued, still drinking some of her tea. "He was summoned here by the goddess of life, Freya. He saved us from getting crushed by a mountain giant near Ellenwood. That was 3 or 4 months ago." I felt something come over me when she said that. I pulled out my locket and looked at my brothers. "Has it been that long already?" I said to it. Tears filled my eyes for a moment. Tigra saw me tear up and asked if I was okay. "I just a bit, my brothers. I didn't realize how long I'd been here," I said to her, and Tara saw the tiny glint of pain in my eyes. James, the butler, came up to the table to pour me a drink. "You've only been here a few months and captured our tiger princess's heart. You must be an extraordinary human to her," James said, making Tigra blush for a moment. "She's been kind to this broken soul. I'd give her my life if she needed it," I said, smiling at Tigra, making her blush a bit more. "You tease me too much, Jacob. You must stop," she told me, throwing a piece of paper at me. I caught it and flicked it back at her. We both laughed for a moment as her servants all looked confused. Tigra used to be so reserved, but she's different from her regular self. James started to smile when he took Tigra's cup. "She's finally found her soulmate," he said under his breath. I heard him, but Tigra didn't. We sat there for a while longer till it was time for bed. In my room, I was looking over the village from the window. The night seemed calm but lonely from the day-to-day fighting and war. To nothing. Tea and warm air are all I felt on my skin now. I crawled into bed and fell asleep when I heard the door open. I opened my eyes a bit to see Tigra. She whispered, "Can I sleep here tonight? It's a bit lonely in my room." I nodded, and she crawled right next to me. She laid her head on my shoulder, and I fell back asleep. Meeting royalty. The following day, I woke up to the sun hitting my face. Next to me was Tigra, still sleeping soundly. I dressed in clean clothes as I put on my last boot. I felt Tigra wake up. She whipped her eyes and then saw me. "Are you going to the Guildhall today?" she asked me, and I replied, "Yeah, I want to see how everyone is settling after your long quest." She got out of bed and walked to the door. "Let me get dressed so I can go with you," I said. I nodded and went to the front door to wait. I leaned on the doorway until James came around the corner. "Sir, are you waiting for Lady Tigra?" he asked, and I said, "We are briefly going to the Guildhall." He nodded and then went into the kitchen. He came back with a cup of tea for me while I waited. "Thank you, James. I appreciate this," I told him, and he smiled. "I am doing my job, sir. Keep yourself hydrated," he said, walking away. I heard Tigra walking down the giant staircase. She was dressed in regular clothing like me. "Let's get going, Jacob," Tigra said to me, and we went to the guild. Our walk was lovely. Everyone smiled at us. Not one person glared at me, but I could see it was all fake. Then we came up to the Guildhall. The guild members hanging out in the front opened the doors for Tigra. For me, they stopped me so I could show them my guild medal. They saw it was an obsidian medal and bowed. "Sorry, sir, please resume into the building." They said, "Let me in." We walked to the board to see the new quests. Roy saw me looking at the board and tugged on my arm. "You're looking for a new quest already, Jacob?" he asked me, and I shook my head no. He smiled. "Well, let's get you by the party. We have a job we might need you for." Roy told me, and I went with him. Tigra was talking with the guild master as I sat with the party. She looked over at me and smiled. Everyone looked at me and glared for a moment. Not in a mean way, but in a way that made me blush. "Where did you sleep last night, Jacob? I didn't see you in the guild barracks?" Ol asked me. He was drinking a glass of water to my right. I smiled and said, "Tigra offered me a room at her place, but that's all I'm sharing." Ol spit out his drink onto Roy, and I laughed. Ol stared at me, and Laurie turned to the stairs at Tigra. Tigra could feel the looks she was getting. She turned to us and saw she was being glared at. "Why am I surprised you and Tigra are an item?" Ole said to me, jabbing me in the shoulder. "I'm not sure if it's like that, but I would be nice," I said, making Laurie turn around to me. Everyone started laughing when Tigra came to the table. Laurie got close to Tigra, whispering in her ear, "Do you have intimate moments with Jacob at night?" Tigra's face changed, and she jabbed Laurie in the gut. Laurie laughed, wheezing back to her seat. I looked over at Tigra, and she sat next to me. "Anyone would be honored to be with a woman like yourself," I told her, and Tigra's eyes seemed to twinkle slightly. "Well, we need to talk about this next quest. I need 2 people with me, not the whole party," Roy said, making us change the subject. "Who do you need?" "I'm pretty sure any of us can help you, Roy," Tigra said, crossing her arms and sitting back in her chair. She changed her demeanor to leader just like that. She was no longer the cute version of herself. She turned back to her cold hero self. I laughed a little, and she looked at me. Roy then said, "I want Jacob and Ol to help me. I need bodyguards for this quest. It's picking up a package for a merchant not too far from here." He looked at Ol and me, and we nodded to him. "Wait, you mean that quest near Death's River?" Tigra asked, and Roy nodded. She looked worried, but realized she didn't have to worry about anything. "Take them, but remember, Jacob is still new," she said, patting my shoulder. I smiled and knew what she meant. From that moment, I started going on quests with Roy. He taught me a lot about this world. I was even reviewing everything I had forgotten during the Demon Queen quest. For 2 months, I did quests with Roy. They were only escort quests and/or delivery quests. I finished them in a couple of hours after accepting them. During my time at home, or should I say at Tigra's, I spent the night looking over the city with her beside me. My love for her was getting deeper. We never said we loved each other. We spent much time together. She taught me about combat magic. I knew sooner or later I was going to ask her, but in the back of my mind, it kept telling me no. Then one day, we were at the guild. Tigra was looking at a letter from a messenger. I approached her and asked, "What's going on, my dear Tigra?" She looked at me and showed me what was written on it. "Dear granddaughter, we request your presence in 1 week. Please ensure you bring that human you've been hiding from us." It was signed by a name I haven't learned yet. Queen Pumia was written at the bottom of the letter. I looked right at her, and she looked worried. "You think they might not like me, Tigra?" I asked, and she nodded. "Some of the elders back home still hate humans. but I'm hoping they'll see you and not your race. She told me, and I smiled. I do not care if people hate me. I only need one person in my life now. It's the person I love with all of my heart. I said to her, and she looked embarrassed. But then I grabbed her and repeated it. I love you, Tigra. I will never say it now. You'll have to go deaf not to hear it anymore. She smiled and then kissed my forehead. After that, I went home to get myself ready for the trip. When I was in my room, I had difficulty picking what to wear for the journey. Should I wear my now repaired armor? Or should I go with my maroon noble suit look? I wasn't sure, so I sat on my desk. Terra, the maid, came to see me looking over my clothes. I told her about my meeting with the king and queen. She wondered which ones, and I told her. Tigra's grandparents. Her eyes were wide when I told her that. You should pick something more you. They hate people who try to over-impress, she told me, and I had just picked out the first outfit I had gotten here. Terra smiled and then nodded when I put them on. When I looked at the cuff more, I saw a tear. I looked up at Terra and asked if she had some black string. She tilted her head at me and then ran to get some. She came back and I fixed my cuff with her watching. She was confused that I knew how to sew. When did you learn that? Have you always known how to do that? She asked, and I smirked a bit. I had to learn when I was younger. I didn't have much money to get new clothes, so I had to fix my clothes from time to time. I told her, and she had a sad look on her face. Don't be sad, Terra. It's just what I went through. I am a stronger person for those times. I told her when Tigra came into my room. She saw me in the first clothes she bought me. You look good. We have a few days on the road. You should pack a bit, or maybe we can get a hold of an orb, she said to me, and I nodded, packing a bit for just in case. Enough for a couple of days. I looked in the mirror for a minute. I was getting slimmer. I just then remembered I had an orb to travel to a kingdom. The gear merchant had one for sale to the town from which Tigra was from. I had Roy look at it and buy it, just in case. I could send us to her home if we ever got in trouble. All that was going through my thoughts when Tigra formed a plan to get there. She watches me walk over to my chest. I bought this a few months ago. I then pulled out the orb. Her jaw dropped. When did you get a return orb for Manal Kingdom? She asked, and I smiled. I got it from that one merchant. She was selling them for each city. I looked down at it and then back at her. I knew the city you were born from. I just thought you might need a one-way shot home, I said, giving her the orb. Did Roy or Laurie be there to authenticate it? She asked, and I smiled and nodded. Good, we can use this in a couple of days. This letter takes about 2 days to get anywhere, so they would have written this about 2 days ago. She told me handwritten letters take a bit to get anywhere, so we waited a few days to meet her grandparents. I had on my now washed first suit. Tigra had the orb in her open hand. Her other hand was in mine. She had finally made our relationship official. She wasn't hiding it from anyone. This made me feel happier about going to meet her grandparents. She cast the orb up, and we started teleporting to the kingdom of Manal. We reached the other side of the portal. I found myself at the entrance of the city in which the kingdom's leaders live. Guards were waiting for us, and they went to arrest us. We crossed the city's borders with a magic orb. They saw the obsidian medals on our chests, right in the cuff hole, right by our faces. They also noticed that Tigra of the Manal family was here. My lady, I'm sorry. Please forgive us for this action we almost took, a guard said, bowing to Tigra. He then saw me with her and backed away. Who's this man with you? Are you all right, my lady? The man asked, and Tigra looked at me. He's my escort to seeing my grandparents. She told him, and he bowed again and then pointed to the castle. Please go ahead. The guards kept their eyes on us as we walked toward the castle. My mind switched back to when I was in my old world. The scene was when I was with the mafia boss I worked for. I had a cigar in my mouth, looking at the current visitor of the day. I didn't carry weapons back then, but I only had brass knuckles for my job. I was tasked with protecting the mafia members. That day, it reminded me of what I'm doing now. Looking back at it, I saw it was when I wanted out. I stopped briefly walking. Tigra stopped after noticing I wasn't beside her. Are you all right, Jacob? She asked, and I nodded. Yeah, I just feel something is off, I told her, and she looked around. She could see guards following us. It didn't take me long to notice them, either. Tigra grabbed my hand, and we went right to the castle gates. For example, at the city gates, the guards saw Tigra first. They bowed to her and opened the doors. They then looked at me and wouldn't let me through. Tigra growled at them, and they gave in on letting me through the gates. I laughed for a second, and she gave me a mean look. "Why are you laughing at me?" she asked me, and I smiled more. "I've never heard you growl before, my dear. I thought it was cute," I told her, and she hit my chest. "Don't make fun of me, Jacob, or I'll bite you," she said to me, and I said under my breath, "I might like that." We came up to the front doors, and they opened for us. We were then greeted by a ton of guards, all fully armed. I felt someone behind me, and I saw a guard behind me. I grabbed him and brought him right in front of me. I was shorter than Tigra. She's about 6 feet 3 inches tall. This guy I grabbed was shorter than I am. He went to punch me, but I threw him away. "What's the meaning of this, everyone? This is my friend," she yelled, making everyone freeze from getting closer. Every guard looked at each other and then at me. "I see. I think they assume I'm controlling you, my dear," I said to Tigra, and she sighed. "Let us pass to talk to my grandparents," she demanded, and everyone made a path for us. One guard thought he could get closer. He stepped forward and I crushed the sword he was holding. Tigra, I could see, was smiling when I did that. Maybe I should be more assertive with my power, I said to myself. And then we came to the more enormous double doors to the throne room. Tigra threw them open and looked right at the king and queen. "My king and queen of this great kingdom, why are you trying to?" Tigra was saying this when her grandfather raised his hand. This was a test to see if he would fight back. He's not caused a scene or shown to be a threat to you. I smirked and looked right at the king. He gave me a look that told me to stay quiet. I looked at him and smiled. "Sir, may I speak for a moment?" I said, interrupting the king. He nodded and let me speak to him. "I've not come here to be tested. I'm coming here because Tigra asked me to come with you. But I can see why you did. You love her. You want to be in safe hands." I paused for a moment, and I looked at my hands. I may be human, I may be quick to anger, but I'll be there for Tigra, the gods, and my friends. I'm not pledging my life to this kingdom yet. The king stood up, and his queen sat him back down. "Let this young man finish, dear." The queen told the king, and he let me finish. "I will if Tigra needs me to, but I would appreciate it if you could call me by my name. I find it disrespectful to call me just human or boy." I told the king and queen. They looked at me and then looked at Tigra. "Yes, I am sorry for testing you, Sir Jacob, but we needed to make sure you were not harmful to her. We must ensure our granddaughter is safe. All of them," the king said to me, making me understand that Tigra isn't their only grandchild. I smiled again when I looked at Tigra. She seemed calmer now. The queen looked at me and asked me a question. "What attracts you to Tigra? Do you like Beast Woman, or do you like her strength, or is it something else?" I looked at Tigra again and thought about the question. Back in my world, I did like the look of Beastman women. But no, that's not what attracts me to her. When I met her, Tigra was a cold and emotionless leader type. But as I fought with her and lived on the road with her and Party, we got closer, sharing our pasts in stories. I looked away from Tigra and looked at the queen. I think what attracted me to her was just her. She's kind and gentle when she wants to be. She put her trust in me, and I will never betray that. I could say numerous things about her that I love, but I don't know what attracted me directly to her. But I love her, and I want to make her to be happy. I told the queen, and she smiled at me as she looked at her husband. "My dear king, let this man remain with Tigra. You can see he won't be a threat to anyone," she said to the king, and he nodded and then sighed. "Yes, we will let him remain in our kingdom's borders. Oh, before I forget, what are you two doing for work? Are you two still signed to that guild, Dragon's Talon?" The king asked. I turned to Tigra. "I'm still working with the guild, an obsidian rank adventurer, the same as Tigra, but I only fill out quests when our party needs extra muscle," I said, and the king looked at Tigra. Tigra stumped her foot. "I am still doing the adventurer thing, grandfather. I just love going around helping people and seeing the world. If I were to return, I wouldn't be able to do that," she said, almost yelling at her grandpa. I saw she was angry, and I went to comfort her. She snarled, and I backed off. "Fine," I said, watching her see me throwing up my hands. "Sorry, Jacob, I am tired of him telling me to come home. Suppose I was to return like he wants. I'd be doing nothing but training for nothing. I'd be stuck behind walls until I took over the throne. I don't want that, and I like being free. I like being around people I like." She told me that, and the king was listening. "I understand, Tigra, but at some point, we'll reach that point of retirement. I don't see us adventuring till we die." I was saying to her that the king agreed with me. I see us with maybe a family or training the next generation of heroes. Also, I want you to have a good relationship with your family. I know how important family is, and I miss mine. I added, and she rubbed my face. "I know. I just want to be tied down to the role of princess." I laughed, and I made a comment that made her scratch my face a bit. "You're my princess, Tigra." The king laughed a bit as he saw I was bleeding. "The only downfall is making her mad," he said, making the queen hit him as well. "Well, since we all settled with this first part of the meeting, I'd like to ask you for dinner later tonight. But in the meantime, please rest in the lounge. I promise from now on, no tests from us," the queen said, clapping her hands. We went to the lounge and sat with the queen for a while. The queen sat near us, asking Tigra questions about me. "How did he join your party, my dear? James never told us about how your party met him." Tigra looked at me, trying to see if I'd permit her to tell my story. I nodded, and she said her grandmother had everything from when we met. "We met him during our battle with a mountain giant. Goddess Freya summoned Jacob to help us. He came across the sky and punched the monster in the face." The queen looked in disbelief. I smiled and said, "Yeah, that was a wild moment. Coming from a world like mine, then getting asked to save another. Thrown into battle on the first day, I had no time to think." The queen looked at me now. The way I talked confused her. "What did you do back in your old world?" the queen asked me, and I stopped smiling. "I was a cook, but before that I was a guard to a criminal boss. I know how that sounds, but I didn't have a choice then," I told her, and she sighed. "Did you hurt anyone or kill anyone innocent?" she asked, and I replied, "Yes and no. I did hurt people, but it was never innocent people, and I refused to kill anyone." She looked scared for a moment till I continued. "I was only a guard. I did that job for money so I could feed my family. In the place I grew up in, you were either broke working for scraps, or you joined the mafia and got enough money to thrive off of it. I did what I needed to do during that time. But that all ended when I ran away from the mafia." I looked at Tigra, and then I smiled a bit. "Wait, you said you left that, not ran away," Tigra said as I leaned forward. "Yeah, I did say that. The truth is, I ran after they tried to get me to kill an innocent man. I told a father and a police officer I refused. They beat me with an inch of my life. They tied me up and were going to kill me. But I managed to escape, so I ran to another city. I got a comfortable job working as a cook. Then I found my place on fire years after that. I had to move again, and when I did, the mafia found me again. But Goddess Freya grabbed me first. She offered me a way out of hell, so I took it. Now I'm here with you and your grandmother. I couldn't think of a better life than the one I have now." I told Tigra, and she looked at me with a better view of who I was. She had no idea how hard my life was at the end. The goddess saved me. For me, I found hope in everyday life. Fighting for good was better than what I used to do. The queen sat there for a while, thinking about who I was, a human who used to fight for someone who might have been evil. Now, I want a better life with someone who fights for good. The room was quiet until a woman came running into it. She looked like Tigra, but was shorter and had white fur. She looked at me and hissed at me. Tigra stood up and yelled, "Sister, you're here. Is everyone else here?" The woman looked back at Tigra and smiled. "Sister Tigra, we are all here, even mother and father," the woman said, changing her focus back to me. "Is this the person who helped you on your little quest?" she asked Tigra, and the queen looked at me. "Lily, please be more respectful of Sir Jacob here. He's Tigra's guest," she said to her granddaughter. I stood up from the couch and bowed to Lily. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Lily. I am Jacob Willow, an obsidian adventurer, and I am human. I hope we can be friends from this small conversation," I said, introducing myself to Lily. The white tiger smiled at me and then offered her hand to shake. "Sorry for the rudeness. I didn't expect you to be such a charmer or human," Lily said as I shook her hand, smiling at her. Tigra stood up when I let go of Lily's hand. "He's quite strong, sister. No wonder you like him." Lily teased her sister as Tigra got closer. I sat back down and had a small conversation with the queen. She had me call her by her actual name. "You can start calling me Pumia if you'd like, only in a private company with just the family." I laughed. She said, "You can call me Jacob. I don't like the sir part. But you can call me that in front of the noble types." I said to Queen Pumia, and she agreed. We continued our conversation while more of Tigra's siblings and cousins entered the room. They all gave me a handshake and asked me the same questions, like how strong I was compared to Tigra or my skills and magic. Tigra was beside me when I made a tiny statue with ice and fire magic. Lily told everyone about my time with Tigra's party. Her younger brothers loved the stories, but the oldest brother, around my age, seemed to dislike me. He was a black-furred beastman who looked like a panther. His eyes cut through me like a knife with every interaction with the family. I started to feel uncomfortable with his glaring at me. When he talked to me, he would smile and act like he loved me in front of his sisters. I acted like he wasn't bothering me, but I couldn't hide my anger for long. During dinner, I sat across from him with Tigra to my left. Tigra's younger brother Tho was on my right. He quickly got attached to me from the stories I told him. Tigra loved seeing me sharing with everyone. That was until her parents came into the room. Sir Hearn and Lady Beth were both beastmen. One looked like a tiger, Beth, and the other looked like a panther, Hearn. Sir Hearn looked right at me and glared. "You must be Jacob, right?" he asked, and I stood up and bowed a bit to him. "Yes, sir. I'm Jacob Willow, sir," I told him, and he pointed at me and told me to sit back down. He sat with his eldest son as Beth came around to see Tigra closer. She hugged her and then looked down at me. Her fur was orange, like that of a regular tiger. Her eyes scared me a bit, but she smiled at me. "You smell nice, but I smell you're stressed. What's wrong, my dear?" Beth asked me, and I looked over at the table. Tigra's older brother was glaring at me again. Beth growled at her son, and he jumped. "Leave him alone, Naru. He's done nothing to you," she said, snapping at him with her fingers. Naru looked at his mother and saw she was serious about leaving me alone. He stopped glaring and stood up. "No, mother, I can't accept my little sister being with a human. I don't care what he's done. He's still a human piece of trash," he said, and I slammed my fist on the table. I cracked it, and I left the room. Tigra started yelling at both her brother and father. "He doesn't deserve to be treated like an animal. He's done more for us than you all know. He's done a lot for me, and he's done a lot for my guild. Why does everyone act like this when they see his face?" Hearn stood up to say something, but Queen Pumia yelled, "You all must know something. I'm sorry, Tigra, but they must know." Queen Pumia told everyone my story, from the mafia to when I started traveling with Tigra and her party. I found my way to the back of the castle grounds. There, I found a willow tree, or what looked like one. It had pink blossoms on it and smelled lovely. I walked up to the trunk and placed my hand on it. I looked at it for a while, thinking about my brothers. I don't know how long I was there, but Naru found me holding the necklace in my free hand. He wasn't glaring at me anymore, but I could feel he still didn't like me. Every time I come to a new place, I get glared at and hated in a new city before people know me. I would expect it back to my old world, and I did many bad things there. But here, I only have to look at people, and they hate me. You all hate me before knowing me," I said, almost crying to the tree in front of me. Naru started to feel bad when he watched a grown man break down. "I love my life here, but I hate being hated for being human," I said, turning around to Naru. He looked right at me and sighed. "I'm sorry for doing that. From all the stories, I found out you have been through a lot in just a few months of being here, but she told me what you went through in your world. Hate has been following you for most of your life." "I'm sorry that I added to that when you didn't need that to happen," Naru said as he held out his hand for me to shake. I turned to look at his hand. "I'm happy you're willing to understand me," I said, shaking his hand, and we returned to the dining room. Tigra and her grandmother saw Naru laughing and smiling at each other. When we were walking, I told Naru about how Tigra was during our quest. Naru slapped my back and said, "She's always been hard-headed and cold, but she has that innocent side. But she also has a different side that you might see." He smiled as he said that until Tigra smacked him over the head. "Don't tell him lies, brother. He knows me better than you do," she said. I blushed when Naru looked at me. I turned. "What do you know about her?" "I don't," he asked, and I said, "Well, that's a secret, my friend." He smiled, and then we all sat back down at the table. We all started eating and talking about the quest. After dinner, I took a long bath before heading to bed. There, Sir Hearn was just relaxing. He saw me and called me over to him. I jumped in the large pool-like bath and sat across from him. "Son, I'm sorry for how everyone has been treating you. Humans here are not liked here in this world. You know the history of that war that started, but it's been more than just that." He said he would start to tell me more about the history. Humans of this world not only created that war, they've been responsible for killing 90% of the dragon people who still have problems with other races. But the humans did this for sport, not for a good reason. So most people in this world hate humans for that reason. I looked at the water after being told that, and I laughed. The humans of my world are the same. We kill for sport and start wars for our gain. We don't have demi-humans or demons like in this world, but we still hunt each other like monsters. I'm not trying to defend humans, they suck. For me, it's more of a personality thing. I don't try to be mean to anyone. I try to understand the people around me. I told him, and he nodded, agreeing with me. Maybe the world out there will one day think like that. For now, let's just improve the lives around us with kindness. Sir Hearn stood up and held out his hand for me to shake. I stood up and shook his hand. "No matter what happens between my daughter and you, I'll ask you to protect this world from those who will do it harm," he said, and I nodded. "I have no plan on leaving Tigra, but I'll do my best to do this world right." After that, I went to bed and slept until the morning. When I got up, I was greeted by the king at my door. He had something for me and a smile on his face. "My son, I would love it if you took this as a gift from the kingdom. Also, I am giving you noble status. From here on out, you'll be officially Count Jacob Willow," he said to me, handing me a sword made from red metal. The sword bore the mark of this kingdom's emblem, a lion's face on a gold plate, and was beautiful. I took it and bowed to King Lioness. "Thank you, sir. I'll cherish these gifts forever." The king laughed. "I appreciate that, my son. Make us proud, Jacob," he told me, and I smiled at him. We went to the front door. Tigra and I were about to leave for home. We talked for a moment until Tigra found us. The king was a lovely man, but had a tough life with wars. His father had him on the front lines during the older campaigns against the demons. I left that day with a whole new view of Tigra's people. I loved them. They seemed to respect me. But I did have some issues with how they first treated me. Now, back home with Tigra, I had one thing left to do. I needed to decide what I should get for her, so I could ask her to marry me. But I had yet to learn this world's marriage customs. Back in my world, there were many choices. 1. We would ask the parents or father of the bride-to-be for their permission to marry. Or we could find or make something to symbolize the engagement. A few days passed before I even asked James what I should do. He was sitting in his chair near the front door. I looked at him, and he put down his cup of tea. "What is it, sir? Do you need my assistance with something?" he asked me, and I nodded. He got up from the chair and listened to my question. "What is the custom for asking a beast woman to marry?" James looked happy at my question. "Finally, you asked me this question, sir. Well, you got the king and queen's permission a week ago. Now, you only need to make something special for her," he told me. I looked at him like she was crazy, and then I went to get materials to make something for Tigra. The question, though, was, what do I make for her? What will she like? I felt the necklace on my chest. I then saw a dwarf making armor near Tigra's manor. Maybe these guys can help me make something like this, I said to myself as I entered the shop. The dwarf woman behind the desk spotted me and smiled. "You must be Sir Jacob. Ole said there was a human warrior living in town," she said, smiling as the workers glared at me. The lady saw this and threw a metal bar at them. "You boys behave. This is Tigra's boyfriend, and he's part of the heroes' party." She yelled back at them, and they all changed their tunes. "So what can I do for you, sir?" the woman asked. I smiled and took out a red ruby gem. "I want to make a proposal necklace for Tigra. I've found it high time I asked her to marry me. Would you help me make something for her?" I said, and the woman looked excited to hear me ask her that. "So you need pointers and help to make something beautiful for Lady Tigra?" she asked, and I nodded, showing her the necklace I got from the dragon almost 2 years ago. The woman looked at the ruby I had, and then she looked at my necklace. "We can make something, but for her, you should help us every step of the way," she told me, and I agreed to learn how to smith with her. So I spent 7 days working with the dwarves to make something for my beloved Tigra. When it was all done, the gem was placed in the locket. After I shined it up nice, I paid my new dwarf friends and went to find Tigra. Tigra was sitting in her favorite spot. I walked up to the table and sat across from her. "What have you been up to lately, Jacob?" she asked, and I grabbed her hand, which was closest to me. "I've been with the dwarves making something for you," I told her, bringing out the necklace. Tigra's eyes got wide as I handed it to her. "Tigra, I love you. I want to be around you all the time, no matter what. Will you marry me, Tigra?" I said, and tears filled her eyes. She took the necklace out of its box, put it on, and then said, "I will marry you, my sweet, strong human man." The warning. A year later, I proposed to my love, Tigra. I started training a lot more, and I grew into a monster of an adventurer. I wanted to be more vital just in case I needed to fight something more potent than the Demon Queen. So, I trained my body and magic as far as possible. Tigra didn't like me going too far. A few times in the months after meeting the royals, I passed out from exerting myself too far. She found me once, passed out in her garden. I had used all of my magic power in a massive spell. I was trying to create a one-hit spell that could stop a whole army. It was an ice spell like I used on the Demon Queen, just on a bigger scale. Today, I am practicing my fire magic. I felt nice just throwing my magic at the target. I looked to my right to see Tigra watching me disappointedly. I smiled, and I stopped. I whipped my face. I looked back at her, and her grandparents were there. The king and queen looked happy to see me. We've now become close, like a real family. Naru was with them, and he had a big box behind him. It was a box of this world's cigars. I was excited to receive this and grabbed one from the box. King Leonis looked at the cigar, and I handed him one. The men went to the training ground while Tigra spoke to her grandmother. King Leon and I discussed my training, while Naru asked again when I would marry his sister. We had planned on waiting for at least 3 years, but I could do it earlier, depending on the circumstances. Today felt necessary. The king and queen wouldn't just visit without a reason. I cut the cigars that the king gave me, and I lit one at a time. I passed them out to Naru and Leon. We all smoked them while talking about my progress. "So, when did you last see the gods?" King Leon asked me, and I smiled, sitting on a brick bench. "I haven't spoken with any of them since we passed through that portal at the guild," I told him, and he smiled. "That must be a good thing then. Most of the time, the gods talk to mortals. There is something bad coming," he said, taking a hit on his cigar. I took a drag too, and I sighed with relief. "Good. I was worried that this peace would get interrupted," I said, smiling at the ground. I knew better than anyone that peace is only temporary. The time I have right now will only last for so long. King Leon then asked me if I'd reconsider joining his army. I shook my head and said no, telling him, "Right now, I feel like just taking it easy till I'm needed, but if this world needs a bodyguard again, I will be there." He nodded and patted my right shoulder. "Son, I hope you'll feel that way when picking up a sword. With time, the mind will change," he said as he walked over to his granddaughter. Tigra looked at me and smiled while her grandfather talked with her. I felt something was off in my gut. I looked at James, who was right next to me. "Sir, is there something wrong?" "You're giving me that worried look," he asked me, and I smiled. I feel that the king just gave me a warning. Peace is a temporary thing. I feel like something bad is coming, something worse than the demon's campaign. I told him, and James agreed with my feelings. He might know something we don't, but don't worry about it till he calls. James told me, and I nodded. He then offered me a drink, and we went back inside the house. After I decided to leave for a couple of hours, I found myself by the guild hall. Ole was sitting outside the entrance on a bench. He had a worried look on his face. I asked him, "Brother, what seems to be the problem today?" He smiled at me and said, "We need people to help us with this quest coming up. We escort goods to the port city we visited 2 years ago." After hearing what they were carrying, I told him I would join him. He gave me a funny look and asked, "Do you think Tigra would join, or is she busy with her royal duties?" I shrugged and told him I would still go with him, even if she couldn't join. He looked relieved. He stood up and told me to meet him here in 2 days. I nodded and shook his hand as I went inside the guild. The old party was eating and drinking at our usual table. The room turned to see me, and everyone greeted me by raising their glasses. I raised a glass to them, saying, "Thank you all for accepting me after a year of being here with the guild." I took a heavy drink and downed half of the pint. I joined my friends at the table, and we chatted about life. Roy wanted to know how my magic training was going, and I'd say I was on par with his sister Laurie with my magic. Ole wanted to know how my fighting skills were developing, so I sparred several times a week to work out with my giant sword. But on my own, I'd work out with my giant sword daily. Then, when the sun set, I got up and went home. Everyone was sad that I left, but understood why. When I was walking through the streets, I felt something watching me. I walked further and cast a spell to create a field of cold air. I meant to freeze anything that got too close. I then heard someone complain in the bushes about how cold it got. I grabbed into the bush and pulled out a dwarf child. She was trying to run but couldn't get loose. She then tried to bite me but almost broke her tooth. "What is your skin made out of? I didn't know humans were this tough," she cried, feeling her mouth for missing teeth. I laughed and then set her down. She looked mad, but I was still laughing. "Little one, I'm not like normal humans. I am the hero's bodyguard and defeated the demon queen with the hero's party. You think it was going to be easy spying on me?" I asked the girl, and she looked even angrier. I called her little. She growled. "I wanted to see why my father calls you his best customer. Now I see you're a bully making fun of my height." I stood up straight, looking down at her. "I'm sorry for calling you little, but you seem young for a dwarf. So, I assumed you were a younger dwarf. I'm sorry, miss," I said to her, and she stopped making an angry face. "I am a kid, but I don't like being called little. It makes me feel angry," she told me, and I understood her anger. "I know what you mean. I hate being called human when I'm much more than my race." "I'm Jacob Willow, miss, and you are?" I asked as I held out my hand for her to shake it. "My name is Sol, and I'm happy to meet you, hero," she said, shaking my hand. Her father approached us as we talked. He looked confused, then asked, "Sol, you're not bothering the hero, are you, little lady?" I smirked, then turned to the father dwarf. "No, sir. She just wanted to see all the fuss about me, so I've been telling her stories about my time with Lady Tigra." I told him to lie to help Miss Sol from getting into trouble. She seemed to like me covering for her and asked if I could tell her more stories later. I told her, yes. I said good night to the dwarves and went home. Tigra was waiting for me and asked what I did after leaving the house. She laughed and told me that Miss Sol used to visit the house, but she stopped when Tigra's party went on the extended mission. We were in the dining room till I felt tired. I found my way to bed and started to fall asleep. Ole asked for help on a long mission to the port city. He's escorting goods, and I offered my services to help him. "Do you want to go, my dear?" I asked Tigra, and she laid her head on the right side of my chest. "If nothing comes up in 2 days, I will go with my love," she told me, and I patted her head until she fell asleep. She passed out after placing her hand on my shoulder. I smiled as I grabbed a book and read for an hour. I passed out with the light on and the book in my free hand. James, the butler, saw our light was on and came in to turn it off. He looked to see how we were. "You indeed found someone to complete you, my lady. Rest well, and tomorrow will bring you joy," he said, turning the light off and heading to bed. The following 2 days were okay. I trained like normal. I also went to a meeting with Tigra at the guild. The meeting was about opening a store to raise money for the guild. Every guild in this world sells something to the world. For example, the port guild I visited makes fishing gear. Others sell swords, armor, and spellbooks. I suggested something unique to this guild. Guildmaster Rule thought my idea was a good one, but we didn't know what we could sell. Then I remembered the lady who made my suit to meet Tigra's family. We could hire that woman who sells those clothes and offer a percentage. She makes excellent clothes and is at a quick turnaround, I said, and everyone seemed to like my idea. So the guildmaster offered her a job making the clothes. I don't know all the details, but she liked the offer. She took the job as we all left on the new quest that Ole asked for help on. We were given a wagon to deliver the goods. The young dwarf girl, Sol, came with us, as she was in charge of the goods. She sat up front with Laurie and Roy as I walked alongside the wagon. Everyone else sat in the wagon, making sure nothing broke. I was carving something while I walked, something to help make dinner tonight. The little dwarf girl watched me the whole time and asked me questions. The first one made everyone laugh in the wagon. "What do you and Lady Tigra like to do alone?" she asked, and I choked on my spit. I laughed and looked at her without spilling the intimate parts. "We love to see and watch the first one alone at home, but in public, we like to watch people go by and hear their conversations. That part helps us understand how our people are doing." I looked at Tigra, and then she said, "I would love to remain an adventurer, but one day I might be responsible for our part of the world. I'd like to rule my people from their perspective," she said to Sol, and Sol looked excited to hear Tigra speak to her. I returned to my carving and then got tapped on the shoulder again. Sol had another question. "What made you guys join this quest?" she asked. I was surprised and gave her my answer as to why I decided to help Ole and the gang. Well, I wanted to see how that port city was doing, and Ole asked me personally. I will never turn down a friend, but I wanted to travel again. The setting and training in the same spot are bland, I said, and she looked at Tigra and gave one reason. Jacob asked me to help, and I said yes. I don't need the coin, but if he asks or my old party asks, I'll help, she said, and I smiled. She's hoping to see Miss Bell, I said under my breath. Sol heard me and wondered who this Bell was. We travelled a bit longer until we came to this portal gate, like the one at the guild hall. But this time it was huge and had a wagon emblem. I asked, "Do they have portals made for delivering goods?" Ole laughed at me. "Yes, but it's not like the ones we used to get home. It puts us in a different dimension for an hour." I was told that, and I was even more confused. They have portals for everything, but it takes years to finish the quests. Tigra saw how confused I was and told me why we often don't use the portals. It takes a toll on people and the equipment. It will feel like we've just passed through for us, but it's been days. You thought it. When we got back, we all felt tired and hungry. For the equipment, as in the gates, the portal stones can destroy the gates if used too much. We only teleport for emergencies unless given permission. She told me all that, and I understood. This world's technology was in its first stages of modernization, so there would be hard times when stuff was not working to its full potential. I continued my carving until we came full through the portal. I heard a familiar voice behind the crowd when we went to the other side. Our guild friends, Rael and Gandhi, were looking at us. They had smiles, and even the crowd smiled at me. Next to them was Miss Bell with her sister. I waved to them, and they jumped over the crowd. Bell stopped the wagon, and everyone got out, seeing who was in the way. Tigra was the first one to reach Bell. I thought she would hit her, but she picked her up and hugged Bell tight. I walked up to them to see she was happy to see me. "You, Jacob, inspired my people to rebuild our kingdom. We've even picked a new ruler to take over or help improve us," Bell told me, and I was excited to hear more about her stories. I looked up to see the sun was setting. "Why don't we all go sit and eat something?" I said to everyone, and Belle got even more excited. We went to this inn near the guild hall, and we ate. Belle looked sad that I wasn't cooking. She loved my camping food, but she adored my home cooking. We rarely got to do home cooking on the road, but when I got the chance, I went all out. This time, that wasn't the case. We got the food, and I ate the first bite. I almost spit it out. It was too salty and dry. I looked at Rael, and she pointed at the cook in the back. I saw this orc chef looking at me after I spit his food in the trash. I walked up to him and asked him, "Sir, mind if I cook for my friends here? I'll even pay for the stuff I used." I asked him, and he snarled and said, "1 gold coin and the kitchen's yours tonight." The guy said, and I felt my mouth smile on its own. I looked at my table and saw Tigra pulling out my kitchen knife. I gave the man 2 gold coins. Tigra threw me my knife, and I went to work cooking. I took over the inn kitchen for an hour. The chef told me what he had for every item on his menu, and I made better than him. I ended that night with someone learning to cook and my friends having a good meal. The chef bowed his head and said, "Sir, please teach me how to cook. Your cooking racked in so much money tonight." He bowed his head, and I laughed. "Sir, all you need to do is taste your food and listen to your customers. They'll be your best teachers. But I can give you my cookbook. It may not make sense, but it's a start," I said, showing him the cookbook I had. It's from all the cooking I have done in this world. One that worked, and some that I was working on. I had them written in English and this world's general language. The orc smiled, and then he bowed again. I held out my hand and said, "Make good food and forget what you did before. Teach others what you learn and keep growing." The orc nodded and left for the kitchen. He sat down, reading the book as we all went to bed for the night. I had the same room as Tigra, which was weird for Belle to see. "Are you two together or something?" Belle asked us, and I looked at Tigra, confused. "You never told her about us, dear?" I asked her, and Tigra blushed. I forgot to mention that to her, but now is better than never. We looked at Belle, who was still waiting for our answer at the door. "We got engaged a while ago and are waiting to get married," said Tigra to Belle. She first stood back, then cheered. "Oh, I was hoping you guys would get together. You both liked each other during the quest to free the Demon Kingdom," she said, and I smiled at Tigra. "I guess people knew something we didn't," I said, and Tigra nodded and laughed. "We did spend a lot of time together, even during the evenings or when we rested," Tigra said, and I had a flashback to when I was a whole month into joining the party. I spent most of the time around Tigra or with Oli. Those times were fun and hell at the same time. Then when, at the end of that quest, we became inseparable, we said goodnight to Belle and all went to bed. I lay down, looking up at the ceiling. Tigra jumped in bed beside me and laid her head on my chest. "Is this adventure making you think about your first quest?" she asked me, and I nodded. Then I said, "I didn't mind the training, but hated killing those monsters. Even monsters have feelings that are more than what we give them credit for." I said to go off on my ramblings right before I passed out. Tigra patted my head till she heard me snore. She then fell asleep on me. The following day, I woke up and headed downstairs. Tigra wasn't sleeping or in the room. She was down here talking with Belle and her little sister. Belle looked at me, and I was still sleeping close. She laughed, then bowed. "Thank you for delivering these to my king. He would like to talk to the heroes who set us free. Sir Jacob and Lady Tigra, this is my king Visor Lance. He is the son of the late queen," Belle said, moving out of the man's way. Tigra looked nervous to see this guy, but I wasn't. I knew he wasn't going to do anything stupid to us. I walked up to him and held my hand for him to shake. He didn't even hesitate and shook my hand. "My, you look just like your mother, King Visor. I hope rebuilding the kingdom is going well," I said to him, and he smiled. "Yes, Jacob, was it? Everything has been running well. A couple of rebels still holding on to my mother's ideals. They are causing some trouble, but we knew that would happen," he said to me, looking at Tigra and seeing her still nervous. "I guess you are still cautious of my kind. Brilliant, but I don't have any ill will towards you both. My mother lost her way. She was too focused on 1,000 years of revenge. She didn't even know that the humans of this world had disappeared," he said to Tigra, making her blush from embarrassment. I felt jealous and mad that he was flirting with her like that. I had never felt like that before, so these emotions were unknown. King Visor turned back to me and thanked me for escorting the party. I smiled and told him I was just fulfilling a request from a friend. I also told him that one day, once it was back to full strength, I'd like to visit the Demon Kingdom. He agreed that it was a lovely idea, then offered to write each other monthly letters. Please let me know how the rebuild is going. I looked back at Tigra, and she wanted to go home. I did as well, so we said our goodbyes and left. The party decided to come with them to receive their rewards, so Tigra and I went straight home. It took us a while to reach a portal. Then, after only leaving for a few days, we returned home. That night, when I was home, I passed out in my chair. I started to dream of a place between two worlds where Freya resided. I looked around and saw she was sitting by her private pond. I walked over there to see that the pond looked at our new future. In the future, I could see a new threat heading our way. I looked at Freya and asked her, "Is this our new enemy coming sooner than later?" Freya looked down at me, and she shrunk down to my size. "This is the future that will decide fates intertwined. Someone from your past is here, and they are looking to start chaos. Will you be able to protect your known life, or will this be the last time we meet?" She asked me, but I didn't know what to say. What did this all mean? Why was my peace about to be interrupted again? I looked at the goddess again, and she smiled at me. "This is not a punishment. It's just what the real world is. You've been doing well, and even given humans a good name. I'm proud of what you've done, and it makes me happy that I chose Tigra's protector right. Now get ready for what's coming, and tell anyone you want, but this might be your biggest challenge yet. Ex-humanity. It has been over a month. No one around me knew what I kept hidden from them. A new battle was coming. I didn't know when, but I did know it would be against my kind. Humans were planning something evil, and I had to stop them. For now, though, I'll keep it to myself. Today, the air was colder, and there were fewer birds. You smell the fires being set for the morning. I was in the courtyard training like I usually did. James was nearby with a glass of water for me. The training wasn't for my sword skills. They were for my magic skills. I picked up a few more after these 2.5 years. I learned to use fire, the element that's the source of my lighting, and water-based spells. James, who was in the corner of the garden, knew I had something on my mind. "Sir, are you okay? You seem distracted," he asked me, and I smiled, putting my sword down. I then heard footsteps coming up from behind me. I saw it was King Leonis who was coming up to us from the house. I bowed my head, and then he raised my head. "Son, what has you in such a stir?" King Leonis said, grabbing my shoulder. I sighed. "Well, I had a visit from Goddess Freya last month. Right after, you asked if I had visions about her." I told Leonis, and he looked shocked that I had seen her that soon. "So, what did she have to tell you?" "You seem to be her messenger in this age," he asked, and I told him everything she had warned me about. "There will be an attack from an ancient enemy of this land, one that has been hiding for hundreds of years. I don't know when, but I feel it will be soon," I told him, and he looked at James. "Well, we will have to watch for that then. We should eat, but let's not tell Tigra about this revelation yet," he said as I picked up the sword to head inside. I got cleaned up and dressed as Tigra entertained her grandfather. I was putting on a shirt and looking out the window. I could feel the weather shifting again. The colder air felt thicker, the same feeling right before a good storm. I looked at my face and saw I was getting older. Now, at 29, my life was much closer to being over. I also saw the scars on my face. I laughed, then put on my formal coat. I headed to the dining room. King Leonis was talking to Tigra about something, but I couldn't hear it. I sat across from them, and Tigra looked right at me. "Darling, what do you have planned for today? Are you going to the guild for work?" She asked me, and I nodded, saying, "I got to keep my wits about me. I can't get complacent with doing nothing." Tigra smiled, agreeing with keeping active. We had dinner. I stood up to feel something hit my face. I felt my face get colder, and I fell to the ground. Tigra and Leonis ran over to me and felt how cold I was. The king then ordered James to put me in bed. Tigra ran to the guild and grabbed Roy, who was eating dinner. "Jacob has fallen ill. He's as cold as ice. Please come look at him, Roy," she told him. Roy didn't take a second to think, so he grabbed his bag and ran to the house. I was passing out when he looked at me. He had seen that my skin was getting pale. My vitals were fine, but my magic was running wild like something was broken or torn. Oh, he's excused his magic power to almost zero. He's also tapped into his evolution in his warrior type. As he explained to Tigra, Roy said, "Let me rest a few days. Roy placed a pouch of medicine next to me and left the room. Still asleep, I dreamt of who I might see in the invading human army. I could only picture Amy, my ex, and the boss's daughter. She was tall and blonde, her face covered in makeup, and I could see her mole under her right eye. She was in armor in this dream, much like the Dark Ages. She looked different, but I knew it was Amy. She looked off in my direction. She said in a somber tone, "I regret what my father did to Jacob. I never thought he'd kill him. I lay sick in bed for days, and the air was cold only around me. Tigra never left my side, not even to eat. James, her trusted butler, brought her things to eat instead. The guild members and our old party mates came to see how I was doing. But I couldn't wake up from this fever. I could only watch Amy as she marched towards the center of this land. The world she was in looked familiar, like the one I was in. From outside my dream, in the real world, Tigra was trying to wake me up, but my body wouldn't move. Then I felt the goddess Freya was in my ear. "Jacob, you found out who leads that human army. They are heading towards your love's kingdom. Will you fight a past love for what you have now?" Freya asked me, and I felt another hand on my face. It was Tigra. She was checking my temperature again. Then I heard someone come running into the room. "Hero Tigra, your grandfather, King Leonis, requests your presence. An army is on its way to destroy us," they yelled, bowing to Tigra's feet. I felt Freya still had a hold on me. "What say you, Jacob?" she asked, and I said, "I'd fight the Demon Queen again for my hero." I said, sitting up and breaking my cold fever. Tigra stopped me, but she saw my eyes were wide. "You know something about that army, don't you?" Tigra asked, and I nodded. "It's the lost kingdom of humans. They are the ones on the march," I said, and Tigra's face looked horrified. We both knew what this might mean. Would I fight, or let the humans run through this land? I knew my answer, but she was concerned that of the opposite. I stood up and looked at my body as if it had been when I first arrived. My body had grown a bit from my old chubby self. I could feel that my magic had settled. I casted a fire sphere in my hand and played with it for a second. I got out of bed and stood up. "James, can you get my shirt and armor?" I asked the butler, and he ran off to get it. "Why are you going to go now?" Tigra asked, and I turned to her. "I will stop this before we are involved in another war," I said as James reappeared at the door. I grabbed my shirt and armor. I put them on. Then I went and found my sword. Tigra was behind me, yelling for me to stop. "Why are you going? Are you going to abandon us to side with the humans? Please answer me, darling." I stopped when I grabbed the hilt of the sword. "I'm not going to side with the humans. I will protect the kingdom, know the world I call home. I love you, and I love the people here in this kingdom. I'll do what it takes to keep you all safe. That's my job. Or did you forget that, my love?" I said to Tigra, and I left for the guild hall. King Leonis was in the hall talking to old Guildmaster Rule. They both looked surprised that I was up and moving around. "Where are they attacking? Can you show me, grandfather?" I asked King Leonis. He didn't want to tell me, but noticed I called him grandfather. "Right here, about a day's journey to the east. You should meet them on the road that leads straight to the kingdom in this area," King Leonis said, pointing to a camping area for adventures. I smiled and then looked at the guild master. "Sir, I'll be gone for some time. Can you give my regards to my party?" I asked, and the guild master nodded. I turned to leave after receiving the map from Leonis. I saw that Tigra was waiting for me as I approached the door. She had the gang and little Soul with her. They all looked concerned, with good reason. Tigra spoke up and told me that the party would be with me. "You have no say in this, my dear. We all are a family. We support each other, even in dark times like what is approaching," Tigra said as everyone got closer. Then James came out of nowhere and held out a bag. "Sir, for the journey ahead of you," he said as I opened it to see what it was. Seasonings and a new knife. I also saw that he gave me a small bottle of liquor. I looked up at him and smiled. "Thank you, James. You are a good man," I said to him, and he nodded and disappeared. I put the bag into my bag. Everyone was watching me, wondering what I would say next. "We should get going. We can stop them at the road," I told everyone, and they all nodded. Then we started heading to the interception point. We were about a yard from the town's front gate when I noticed Soul following us. I stopped walking and told the girl, "Soul, you must stay here. Keep everyone safe. I bent down to one knee. Sol looked sad, but I placed my hand on her shoulder. I guess she's a bit attached to me, like a little sister. I'll be okay, Sol. I'm just going to stop some people from doing something bad, I said to her in a gentle tone, one that made Tigra blush. Laurie was also blushing as she looked at Tigra. Sol hugged me, then ran off, letting me know she understood my direction. I felt a tear roll down my right cheek. I whipped it off and turned back to the group. Let's get going, everyone. We have ground to cover, Tigra said, getting everyone to move again. We walked for hours, heading east, right to the halfway point. We set up camp and waited for the sun to fall. The fire was roaring and crackling in front of me. Tigra and everyone were sitting on the other side, watching me. My eyes never left the fire. I could only think about Amy. She was my ex-lover from my younger life. She was the Don's daughter, a very scary but beautiful person. She was entwined with her father's work, smuggling and drug trafficking. She even killed a few of her father's rivals. Some days, I'd be in charge of watching over her, so we spent a lot of time together after a year of being in the mob. We started dating in secret. Her father didn't know, but the captains did. My mind was on the moment I last saw her. Tigra coughed, and I looked up at her. Who is this person? Why do they make you so nervous? She asked me, and I shook my head, then told her who it was. Her name is Amy Aldridge, my former girlfriend from my world. She's leading that army heading this way, I told Tigra, and everyone stopped moving around. They all looked nervous about what this meant. Do you feel for her, even after all this time? Tigra asked me with a cold tone. I sighed. As when we broke up, no, that feeling is long gone. It's a more nostalgic feeling. She's the one who helped me get away from the mafia, I said, and Tigra smiled. Are you hoping she'll consider leaving the Beast Kingdom alone? I heard Ole ask. He was right next to me and grabbed me a bowl of soup. He gave it to me, and I shrugged. Probably not, but I can only try. Knowing what she might do after being away from her for so long. Anyone can change over time. Just look at my lady, I said, teasing Tigra. She threw a rock at me, and I caught it and set it down. She was always quiet, only expressing herself peacefully. You came around and forced her to be more herself, Laurie said as Roy was getting up to get more wood.